hard disk as well, because I think we may have actually temporarily lost our connection to YouTube. So hopefully that's not too far away from resolving itself. And actually, it looks like a lot of people have potentially pulled the pin on this lap as well. So maybe something else has gone a little bit strange here. So I believe there is a little bit of a technical drama at the moment, and we'll hopefully get that up and running in the next few moments. Apologies to those that are watching along in the live stream. We hope that we will have this resolved in the next little bit. What we might do here, ladies and gentlemen, is we'll just take a short break, and we will return in just a few moments. It looks like there has been a couple of technical dramas, and we will get back underway in just a few moments. Apologies everybody, looks like we had a few little technical dramas going on with not only that, the drivers were still in the drivers briefing, and we've now hopefully got all of our technical gremlins sorted. Hans's mic, I think, has resolved itself. We just had a bit of a drop in the quality of the stream for an unusual reason. Definitely not an internet drama on our side, but just something went a little bit strange, and it looks like the drivers are now getting themselves sorted to go into qualifying now. They've only got 10 or 11 minutes now, so we expect to see a pretty quick flurry of activity on the circuit already, Hans.
Yeah, we see all the cars exiting pit lane now, and they all need to find their own bit of real estate to call their own for the next 55 seconds or so and put a good lap in.
Now, who's the car that's actually out there at the head of the train? It's actually Brendan Ross is the man who's out on the circuit, I think, first of all, or I could be wrong here. No, actually, in fact, it's Brenton Foley. So we'll pick up with Brenton Foley, defending champion, and he's going to come across some traffic at precisely the wrong moment here. You need to be flat up through these left and right-handers. Stenberg does a pretty good job of getting out of the way and letting the number one through. Short lap traffic is always at a problem, or always at a disadvantage when you are not only the race leader but the man that wants to go out and set the qualifying lap. Just short of a 19.1 for Brenton Foley through the opening sector is not too bad, considering it's a bit of a traffic affected lap for him. In actual fact, Lime Mitch is the man who set the opening benchmark at a 55.7. Foley's nearly 0.6 of a second under that. And down to the final corner now. Oh, and he gets the rear out as well, so slides it through the final corner, somehow keeps it together. He'll post a lap at least, probably going to be a 55, and it's a 55 flat, despite losing it through the last corner. That was actually pretty impressive.
I think he would have lost it all in the third sector just on the last corner there, but you saw Kurt Stenberg having dramas as well. About to start his first flying lap, he ended up sideways as well. Incidentally, I've received word from Brian Walsh. There's going to be no Scuderia Alitalia cars tonight. Brian Walsh is out, and also Glenn Miles has an ear infection. So I believe Brian Walsh is getting some special tutelage from a former racing driver that I shall not name, who now has a lucrative a lucrative new profession, and the rest of the Scuderia Alitalia crew are in lockdown in Italy.
Wow, he's getting education.
I guess you could call it an education in anatomy.
Oh, there's a big accident at the final corner. Who's that? That looks like Brendan Ross to me.
A bit too much Bundy Red there.
I think so. Where is he? We'll cycle through and see if we can find him. He set a lap time. Yeah, there he is. So let's pick that up and let's see what on earth he did there. Looks like he probably just tried to be a little bit too ambitious with the final corner, I think. He had the headlights on. He was on a hot lap. Gets down to the final corner and pinches the brake. Gets up on the curb. Oh, wow. Up on two wheels and completely rolled the car.
And that's not the first time I've seen a Bundy Red car roll over in history. So maybe that's another moment in history that we'll see later on. But Brendan Ross, we thought he was perhaps taking the mickey with the track limits there, but it turned out to be an honest mistake. The car just getting up on two wheels and passing that point of no return. Now he's taking the mickey with the track limits. He's just straight line the whole thing. No, it's just he tried to rejoin as soon as he possibly could, and he's struggling to get the car turned in. So this outlap is not going well for poor old Rossi. But it was a good showing at Pukekohe last time out, and it was good to see him firmly up in the top 10. And he's hoping to repeat that performance tonight. Oh, Brendan Foley's off. Yeah, he's out in the sand there. He's going to the beach, they call it. A lot of slippery sand around in Barbagallo Raceway. Just out of Perth, about 45 minutes up Wanneroo Road in that area. Stenberg will probably watch this later on and correct me on it. But my dad was from Perth, so that's what he told me.
Is a newcomer to the series, only joined on Tuesday night after watching our GT3 broadcast, Luke Rosella. It's good to see a couple of new faces getting their racing boots on in AMS Oz. Doing the right thing there, doing a great job letting the faster cars through while he gets himself together for a crack at a hot lap. Currently P7, 55.2 is pretty good. Good to see another Volvo out there as well. Like to see a few more Nissans and a few more Mercs as well though, Hans.
I think we need to start capping the amount of entries per car just to create a bit of diversity, a bit of inclusion for all the manufacturers, which is good. He's got the lights on now, which means he's going to start his first flying lap, or not his first flying lap, his next flying lap of the session. And we go on board now with roll bar cam looking through the windscreen of the Volvo. Luke Rosella going into turn one. This is a straight braking area down into third gear from fifth, and then short shift up to fourth. Just lightly over the curbs, gentle with the throttle, then back down to third here. Long sweeping corner. Yeah, he's got the lights off now and he's slid well wide of the ideal line, so he's going to try and reload for the next lap. But it's great to see the Volvos out there, and it's good to see some newcomers like Luke Rosella. He's doing a pretty good job. He's staying out of most people's way. And actually, he's doing better than that. He's up 8th at the moment, so we should give him a bit of a congratulations, because that's a pretty solid effort.
It sure is. I actually think it's Liam Spence that actually just displaced him and moved him down one more spot. Spence has actually gone all the way up to P5, so that's a really ripping lap. The CRE guys were doing an awful lot of practice earlier this week. I was catching up with them Monday night, I think it was, and they were pounding around putting in all the laps to try and be the ones to topple Kurt Stenberg. At the moment, Devonish is still the man that leads this field, and actually up by a tenth of a second coming through the second sector split. Stenberg had started to erode that margin, and now Will's answering. Slightly different look on the car this time around, and finds that 10th. Just lost a fraction of time. That's what we were saying before, Hans. There's going to be gains in very, very small chunks of time. So that was 1 and a bit tenths of a second. It was actually 0.112 down to 0.102 at the control line. So again, that little, very, very minute bit of time. Fantastic curb cam shot there. That little bit of minute time is going to net you such a huge gain if you can, maximise every corner to its potential.
Absolutely, and it's about not going too far over the edge, because you will ruin your exit out of the corner by carrying too much mid-corner speed. Looking at Kurt Stenberg now, he is just under 0.2 of a second down on Devonish. Now let's see what sort of time he can put in. He's just coming up to the first sector split, and he's up. He's up by half a tenth on his PB, and he's actually up by 0.03 of a second on Devonish. So the smallest of margins, but can he continue that through the lap? Up to the second sector split now, running up the hill, like he said, deceptively steep. And again, he's still up, but he's lost a bit of time there. But it's better on his own PB, but it's closer to what Will Devonish set. Now the final sector, can he keep this run going? Can he snatch pole position, provisional pole in the last 3 minutes of this session? Can he do it? No, he doesn't. 0.004 of a second, minutest of margins between Stenberg and Will Devonish, and that could have come anywhere, Steve.
Yeah, Will's going to have to go again, and in actual fact, he's leaving the pits right now, so he's going to get another 2 flying laps in. If he can just time his run through the traffic, he knows now that he's definitely not safe. Already on a new qualifying lap record pace, so whoever can get the pole position tonight is going to have a little slice of history in the AMS Oz history books. At the moment, it's Will Devonish, but by, well, as a number of drivers would say, it's an inch pretty much at the moment, or a 16th of an inch, or a bee's dick, whatever you want to call it. There is not a lot in this at all. Further back, let's have a look at some of these other battles. We've got Pete Savage has leaped his way up to P3, still ahead of Brenton Foley, so that's a pretty tight margin as well when we look down the order. There's not a great deal in that at all. 0.07 of a second is the margin, so he's not safe either. Likewise, this battle for 5th and 6th, Liam Spencer and Scott Nolan, and even when you include Mitch Hathaway in that, they are locked together as well. A half a tenth either way is going to make a huge change there. Hathaway just ahead of Liam Spencer on the track at the moment. And then 8th, 9th and 10th, Zach Ross, Lime Mitch and Luke Rosella. And even so, 11th and 12th and 13th are all close as well. There is there's clusters of cars at the moment that if any of them gain a fraction of time, a tenth or a half, even a half a tenth, they're going to change the complexity of this order very, very quickly. Back to our provisional front rowers. Brendan Ross off the road. There, Stenberg's around.
He's off.
No, and he was up too. He was up at the second sector split. So that is disaster for Stenberg. He's
not going to get another lap in. That's it.
No, and that means Will Devonish potentially is safe, barring a real flying lap from Foley or Peter, which Foley's actually leapfrogged Peter in the last 30 seconds as well. So he's gone to provisional P3. Devonish is not going to get another good time just by wiggling off or squirming out of the first corner like that. The first sector split agrees with him. We'll stay with him for the moment.
This is the last roll of the dice for Will Devonish. Can he better his time and to fend off any further challenges from anyone else? Pete Savage, incidentally, he's also a Perth boy, and he's flying the flag at his home track in 4th place, provisional 2nd row of the grid. And we saw his stellar 3rd place, and Will Devonish is up 0.04 of a second going to the final sector now. Final corner, this is what it all comes down to. Good run through here, get on the throttle early. Shift up through the gears, good gear changes. And Devonish to the line, what does he do?
Does not improve.
Doesn't improve, so he stays on a 54.45. And Pete Savage, does he improve? Can he jump Brenton Foley? No. So I think those are the final runners, or perhaps and the others have aborted their lap. No, Lime Mitch is on a lap, but he's probably not going to improve because he's about a tenth off his personal best. And you see the up curve in the road there, the incline in the road. You hook into the brake pedal quite late, and the car stops on a dime. It's fantastic. And Lime Mitch doesn't improve, way down. And that all came about in the final corner. And I believe that's all we have. That's all she wrote in this qualifying session. Perhaps there's more people on laps or more people aborting, but they're well down the order. And we're not seeing anyone lighting the timing screens alight at the moment.
Nope, she's all said and done for qualifying. There's just a few cars just coming around, peeling into the pit lane. So, top 10 there. Devonish from Stenberg, Foley, Pete Savage, Liam Spencer, Scott Nolan, and then back to Mitch Hathaway, Zach Ross, Lime Mitch, and our newcomer Luke Rosella in the top 10.
On the topic of Perth locals, Zach Ross, I believe, is also a Perth local. So the old Perth boys, they're going all right at the moment. The home track advantage. So good to see that we're visiting our Western brethren. And please stay a part of our nation. Don't secede.
Well, with that in mind, Hans, we'll take a look at the point standings coming into tonight's round. So, here's your drivers' standings after 4 rounds or 7 races in the season. We obviously had the Adelaide 250, which was a standalone event, and then 3 sprint rounds since then. So that gives us our 7 races. As we said at the top of the show, Kurt Stenberg, a perfect result at the moment. 7 wins from 7 starts. You cannot get any better than that. Will Devonish's chances of staying in touch with Stenberg took a bit of a dive at that last round with the 11th place finish in that second race. He really dropped a packet load of points, and Foley not too far off breaking the 1,000 point barrier as well. And there's a nice little pack with Mitch Hathaway, Termo and Burko together, and even through the mid-pack there's still plenty of drivers all the way down to 12th with the thought in their minds, I guess, that if one of them gets a really, really good result over the others, they're going to leapfrog a few people in the order. Hans, our driver in focus this week is Liam Spencer, CRE Race Engineering driver, the number 4. Subbed in for Aaron Thomas at Symmons Plains and did a very, very fine job indeed. So his debut was Symmons Plains round. 4 races to date, 4 top 10s, and a 6th place, his best finish. He's qualified P5 for tonight's opening race. Can he keep the momentum going?
And that's what you call a super sub at the moment. Like you said, four starts, 4 top 10s, and a best result of 6. So he's been pretty adept at keeping out of trouble, barring that warning for the unsafe rejoin. But the young fella, he's certainly coming on gangbusters at the moment. He's putting in some good drives, and I don't think he'll be a substitute driver for long because there'll surely be a team that will pick him up. And it'll be great to see him as he matures as a driver in our series.
Yeah, he's one of the drivers that I've had a bit of an eye on for a little while since he came into AMS Oz. He's been doing Super 2, actually substituted for his father at the Symmons Plains race and got himself a win, which was great to see. And he's done a little bit of GT3 as well, but seems to have really found a home driving the rear-wheel drive V8 format, that is the Supercars. We go over to have a look at the team's points now. Team's points CRE, the team that he drives for, currently well out in front, nearly 150 points clear at the moment of PBF Race Engineering. Again, all the 2-car operations seem to be at the pointy end of the field. The only exception there being Trans-Tasman Racing with Kurt Stenberg, all on his own, some 1,200 points, still hanging in there, picking up the 5th place on the standings there at the moment. And the other team that we have in focus for this round is the Top Gear Racing stable. So last year, that was the pairing of Steve Burko and Zach Ross. They campaigned the Ford FGX Falcon for most of that. The Mustang made its appearance at the Bathurst round and saw out the rest of the season. 6th to Burko at the end of the season. Zach Ross finished in 20th, which is on his debut year, wasn't a bad thing to have. And then 2020 brought about the Volvo S60. So this is the first time in AMS Supercars we've seen the Volvo S60. Burko's currently 7th in the standings. Wayne Spencer, who came on at the Symmons Plains round, has got himself up to 19th in the standings with having missed the opening couple of rounds. So position-wise, they're sort of about where they were sort of this time last year, but just with a slightly different driver combination.
Yeah, absolutely. It's more of the more things change, the more things stay the same, it seems. So with one driver changing, one driver leaving, which was Zach Ross, went to Loose Sim Sport. I guess they can call that Loose Sim Sport Team Perth. I don't know. Maybe it's perhaps an idea with Pete Savage and Zach Ross to that team. I think Top Gear Racing, they're putting in some solid efforts, and we see glimpses of great pace from Burko. And Burko is actually he's first or second in the Super 2 Championship. He campaigns a Holden Racing Team Commodore in the Super 2 Championship. And yeah, not sure if he's first or second at the moment. He'll probably bash me over the head for getting it wrong, but I'm fairly sure I'm going to hazard a guess that he's first in the standings, and his teammate in that series, Lime Mitch, is in second, and they are definitely the standouts in that field. So Burko, he does a lot of racing, and we see him in the distinctive colours of the Builders Traffic Management and Formula V racer, in fact, Mick Fisher, uh, long-time Formula V racer. So good to see some real life racing connections involved as well.
Yeah, that's the one thing we really like to see is a lot of these small businesses that come on board and drivers that are in our series that have, small businesses that get their name published out there. So people like Mick Fisher, the Builders Traffic Management, Builders Crane Hire, Cars, that have a sponsorship there. Cam Rutledge, the CRE, which actually is Cam Rutledge Electrical. He's an electrician by trade, and good to see that we've got people like Cam and lending their sponsorship to not only that, but also getting out there and promoting their business. And we'd encourage any of the drivers in the Super 2 and Supercar fields that if you want to come and run in Supercars, definitely you're more than welcome to come and put a livery on your car and promote your business. And it's a little initiative. I think we're trying to see if we can do a little bit more just to try and promote as many of the, especially with COVID having come along and a lot of small businesses struggling, just to try and promote some of these small businesses that really do help keep the economy going, Hans.
Yeah, on the same topic, Scott Nolan, he's presented in a livery with Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions and Posse's Mechanical Repairs. And Posse is actually Glenn Postlethwaite, who's actually Postlethwaite, I should say. He's a pretty accomplished sim racer in his own right. He does mostly iRacing, I believe, but he also used to race Victorian Saloon Car Championship. And he used to campaign a VT Commodore there, and he was a pretty gun driver. He used to be sideways everywhere. So in those cars, if anyone knows saloon cars, it's pretty much sideways all the time. So Glenn Postlethwaite, I've seen him race a couple of times. So hopefully we'll see him on the racetrack soon in the AMRS series, I believe. And yeah, so be good to see some real life racing happening, and also support your local businesses, like you said, because it's actually there's a lot of them that have taken a big hit at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. There's a few businesses that have been able to withstand some of that horrible trouble that's been going on recently, and there's a lot of businesses that need our help. So get out there, support your local businesses, buy local. Go down and buy yourself some takeaway for dinner one night in your local, little shopping centre and stuff like that. Keep the businesses going, because otherwise we're going to lose quite a lot of them, and that'd be a terrible thing if that was to happen. Now we're just waiting for the race session to get themselves everything organised, and it looks like we are not too far away from going racing. So 2:38 lap encounters tonight, as you saw with the graphic at the beginning of the night. Two 90k sprint races, 90k's or thereabouts. The nearest 90k equates to 38 laps with a pit stop. That's the most important thing that has changed from last year's championship to this year's championship, is the pit stop sequence. Last year it was 70k sprint races, no pit stops. This year, 90k races with a compulsory stop. You must put tyres in, or you must put tyres on at the stop. If you can make it on fuel, good luck to you. You're more than welcome to try your hand. Somehow I don't think you're going to make it on fuel at a circuit like this, Hans, as we get ready to have a look through our race order on the formation lap.
Will Devnish off pole. And let's see if he's gonna angle his car at the first corner, because pole at this track is on the outside. So he needs to keep the aggression up. And will it pay off this time? We're gonna see. And he put in a stellar lap time. 4 thousandths ahead of Kurt Stenberg. Another close battle at the front of the field will ensue in this race. Brenton Foley off in third, then Pete Savage in fourth. They make up the second row of the grid. Another local being Pete Savage. So Kurt Stenberg and Pete Savage, both the locals, they're representing the front of the field. Then in fifth place, we got Liam Spencer putting in another good drive. Top 10 start, best starting position for Liam Spencer. Hopefully he can stitch together a nice top 10 finish. In sixth place, we have Scott Nolan representing the Smith & Sons Renovations entry. just quietly achieving there. Then the first of the HDS cars, the Lewis Sim Sport HDS cars, Mitch Hathaway coming off a podium in Pukekohe, and following him is another of the Lewis Sim Sport cars. That's Zach Ross, another Perth dweller, and good to see some of the Perth boys up there. Lime Mitch, one of the Super 2 stellar performers in the Monster Energy Racing wildcard entry. Then rounding out the top 10, that's going to be Luke Rosella in Gary Rogers Motorsport. Stellar drive to get into the top 10 on his first entry. Then in 11th, we've got Wayne Spencer. I was going to say Brendan Ross. Wayne Spencer in 11th. Brendan Ross off in 12th, so he's just outside the top 10. Then Burko, I believe it is, in 13th. Then the second of the HDS cars in... It's actually Paul Morris. I was going to say Billy Dougal-Salonga. Billy Dougal-Salonga, a.k.a. Paul Morris. Phil Boak at the back of the field. We're not usually accustomed to seeing him there. Then a couple of the CRE cars, Termo and Dwayne Davies. He's missed the start. He'll be starting from pit lane. Cam Rutledge in 18th. Rhodey in 19th. And Kalen Duncan in 20th. And in 21st, our final starter on the grid is Scott Stancliffe, who's actually had a rear of grid penalty from the last round.
Yes, Scott Stancliffe got those rear of grid penalties for the 2 contact incidents you saw in our highlights package. Now have a look at this. Will Devonish has decided the gig is up, that the angling of the car is not working for him, and he has gone to just a normal standing start. Now I think we're just waiting because somebody's slightly out of position on the grid, and it looks like it might be Rhodey, who's potentially just reversing in back of shot there and getting himself into order. No, well, it definitely wasn't Rhodey. He's got himself into the right position, and no, I think he's where he needs to be. We're watching on this other screen here just to see if he can get himself into order. It's taking a lot longer than expected. I think he needs to be a bit closer. Now D2, Dwayne Davies, has decided to start from the pit lane, which I think is probably a bit of a sensible thing to do actually, given that it could be a bit of carnage on this opening lap. Here we go. Everyone's in position. Lights are going. Race 8 of the championship for round 5 is go. Better initial jump for Kurt Stenberg. He got the better reaction time, but Will Devonish was awake to the task, and they're going to run side by side. Puts the squeeze on through turn 1, leaving him enough space. Around the outside goes Will Devonish, and he prevails for the time being. All looks pretty good up through the opening sequence of corners. Everybody's managed to get through cleanly. The drivers were warned after the lap 1 incidents last week that they were being monitored, and they were going to be looking at all lap 1 lap ones from every race moving forward, as there was some pretty avoidable contact. But the pole sitter is away, and the man in second place is going with him, not letting him get away though.
Pete Savage, incidentally, has moved up into 3rd place. He's converted. He's managed to move up 1 spot. Can he put in another stellar drive like he did in the GT3 race just the Tuesday gone? And Mitch Hathaway was in a big battle involved with Liam Spencer. Liam Spencer's gone back 1 position on the first lap. And Mitch Hathaway gun start 2 spots up. And Lime Mitch also 2 spots.
Yeah, Scott Nolan going backwards as well, a couple of spots.
Oh, massive moment for Pete Savage there. He got tagged by Brenton Foley. No harm, no foul. They just keep going. He didn't have to cede position there. So Brenton Foley, bit too ambitious on the first lap, or the second lap rather, first corner. And they need to be mindful not to let the top 2 guys get away, because they have been shown to do that in the past.
Yeah, and they're trying to do that right now. They're trying to check out and get going, and there's a couple of battle packs already starting to form. So the top 2 have gotten away. Third and 4th have gotten away as Foley has a moment. Mitch Hathaway's cleared away from this battle with Liam Spencer. Lime Mitch is bearing down on the back of Liam Spencer at a great rate of knots. Move looking down here at the inside at the final corner, turn 7. Made his intentions very clear there, which the drivers were advised to do. Make sure that you've made your intentions clear so the drivers give plenty of way. 3 wide down the main straight in 2 occasions. Nolan tries to buy into the argument here with Lime Mitch, and he's got the job done. Great move, Scott Nolan.
Getting the elbows up early, trying to make up for a poor start. Went absolutely backwards off the line, it seemed. But Scott Nolan, he's a bit of a more casual sim racer. He doesn't do as much practice, but he's a fairly good sim racer in his own right, Scotty Nolan. And this fantastic curb shot here, we're just cycling through the field now. Great shot that, isn't it?
Yeah, the curb cams are absolutely fantastic. Great work by Lewis Wedding. We really do take our hat off to him for some of the work that he's done with some of these tracks. This ad board signage, the curb cameras and a few different camera angles has been really great to see. It really enhances the quality of the broadcast. Hope you're enjoying some of those shots at home. Kurt Stenberg with the fastest lap of the race at the conclusion of lap 3 of 54.8 as he continues to apply the blowtorch to the back of Will Devenish at the moment. It's all settled down at the moment. Everybody's just starting to get a feel for this track as it starts to rubber in. Crash at the back of the field. What have you found there, Hans?
Yeah, it looks like it's actually Paul Morris in a bit of a pickle there, and I believe there was another car involved. I can't quite see who it was. We'll scroll up the field and see who's out of position. Perhaps Wayne Spencer was involved as well. I may be mistaken, but that's what I managed to observe. Just out of shot there. Incidentally, Luke Rosella's looking quite racy. It's making Zach Ross have to go defensive.
There it is. There's the accident there. It was actually Boak getting into the back of Mitch Hathaway, sorry, into the back of Paul Morris, and then the Volvo of Steve Burko having to check up to avoid them all. So that's what went on back there at the back of the field.
Bit of a concertina effect. So not ideal at this early stage of a race, but at a track like this where the real estate is at a premium, causing a few dramas for some.
Yeah, sure is at the moment. Here's this battle again. So Paul Morris goes a bit deep at turn 1. Phil Boak tries to get the over and under going, but not enough of an opportunity to sneak alongside and out-drag him up through the S's. And Paul Morris will hold. Having a bit further up the field, the top two have got a 2 and a bit second breakaway on Pete Savage and Brenton Foley. And then back to Mitch Hathaway, still holding down P5. They really have cleared out the top two already. We're looking at the live races, which is a little bit behind at the moment, and already the field is quite well strung out through the opening sector and a half. Here goes Boak, thinking about a move down the inside of turn 7. Morris has to give him a bit of space here, so they'll run side by side through the final corner. Boak's got the high ground here if he can hang on, but better drive for the number 99 off the final corner. He just drives it straight down the middle of the road and plays the defensive game here.
Great racing in the opening stages. It's just at that very limit of what is and is not acceptable, if I can get my words out. But that's the way you got to play it. You got to get your elbows up to defend your position. Brendan Ross has incidentally fallen off the back of Luke Rosella, who continues to harass the back of Zach Ross, and it's making Zach Ross drive defensively everywhere.
Big move by Phil Boak. He actually had 2 wheels on the grass on the run to Cole Corner, and that's going to lose him not only the spot that he tried to take off of Paul Morris, but it loses him a spot to Steve Burko as well.
And he's back to where he started, 15th place. And he's trying to make the move on Burko now, but he's not quite far enough. And he just shows the nose to let him know he's there, but Burko, he's got a bit of speed on board at this stage in time. A bit more consistent run than Boak at the moment, and we're very unaccustomed to seeing Phil Boak down the doldrums of the field.
Well, he did have some internet dramas this afternoon, and in actual fact he has, believe he's tethering with his mobile phone at the moment. For some reason the internet this afternoon just decided to give up the ghost, and he's been struggling to get into the practice server to cut some laps, so he's down field a bit more than he would like to be. Hopefully he can make his way forward from there. Incidentally, Will Devenish has just started to edge away a little bit. He's got the margin out over his counterpart in the Holden in Kurt Stenberg, out to a half a second. A little bit of action at the final corner here. Here's Zach Ross having a look at Lime Mitch. So the FGX Falcon down the inside of the Monster Energy Mustang. And they're going to go 3 wide here. Luke Rosella's going to try and capitalise on all of them, and he commits hard to turn 1. They somehow get away with this.
Couldn't fit a cigarette paper between those 3 cars on the main straight. So that's a big move there. Oh, Zach Ross, he gets squeezed up onto the curb, so he had to get out of it. But gee, what a move from Luke Rosella. He's not a newbie by any means. He knows what he's doing. Leave him alone. He knows what he's doing.
Kimi Raikkonen's not in this, but he'd be proud of that, Hans. Luke Rosella definitely getting his elbows.
He's going to make a move into cold corner. Fantastic move. That's textbook. That's textbook into cold corner. Fantastic.
And have a look at Zach Ross. He's decided, well, you made me a gap and you wedged out Lime Mitch for me, and I'm going to try and take advantage of this. Fantastic driving by the Volvo driver on his debut here. Some fantastic racing all round from all 3 of these guys.
Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Devenish had to go a bit defensive there. Stenberg showed the nose, but wasn't quite far enough to make a move on Devenish. And Devenish holds on for the moment. They've been trading fastest laps fastest laps. Kurt Stenberg, last lap by, did the fastest first sector at 18.94, or 18.948 rather.
He's currently the holder of the fastest lap of the race as well, 54.584. Devonish not that far off, 54.677. They've just got to settle into their rhythms here a little bit too, because Kurt Stenberg's now a bit of a look here.
Out.
No, yes, no, maybe. And a little bit of a Morse code love tap on the rear bumper of Devonish's number 15 there. As Stenny tries to apply that power out of that final corner, just a little bit of a wiggle, just gives a little bit of breathing room. Will's not braking sort of in a straight line here. He's just sort of angling that car toward the corner, getting the job done to make sure he heads off any potential move down the inside. He's making his intentions pretty clear to Kurt Stenberg. I hear the pit lane traffic sirens going off in the background, so that means somebody's already coming into the lane pretty early. Tyres is going to be a huge issue here, so timing of your pit stop's going to be good.
Mitch, and he spun on the pit entry. Lime Mitch has spun on the pit entry, so disaster for him.
Worth a look at that then, so let's see what happened here. So he was in a battle with Brendan Ross. Tried to go around the outside. Did they get around together? Oh, no, they both came together. That's what spun him around. Oh, and how on earth he avoided all the walls, I will never know. He is a very, very... Oh, no, he didn't avoid the wall. He drove straight into one. So I was about to say how much of a lucky boy he actually was. So I'm not sure if he's actually decided that he's now going to take some service or not.
He's decided to take service, and looks like a fairly long stop, so he's probably taking tyres and fuel. But yeah, that was some precision parking going on. Maybe he should send in his resume to the Precision Holden driving team.
Very possible. It's not the Holden driving team anymore. They drive by Suzu D-Max Utes, I think, now. I think that's what they were having at the Royal Melbourne Show when I was there last year. The problem for Lime Mitch now is he's gone a lap down to the race leaders. He's plumb last, and he's getting blue flags to the third and fourth place men at the moment. So he's got a long way to go. This is probably a lot earlier than you need to stop. Those tyres are going to be really crying poor by the end of this race, having stopped so early into the race, taking advantage of an opportunity that presented itself. I guess that's the only real thing you could call it. But not at the timing wasn't great.
No, not at all, but that's what he had to do. He already lost the time getting into the pit lane, so he might as well have taken service. As this battle, a bit of a battle there that was going on, pretty wild. He was squeezing Brenton Foley, but Brenton Foley and Peter Savage, they're glued to the hip at the moment, but Devonish has managed to break the back of Stenberg. So Stenberg has fallen off somewhere, and he's, I can't quite see where the last lap would have been. Let's have a look through the lap time.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of drama with live races in the recent past where it's not up to date as quickly as it was. It's usually about a lap and a half behind, so I think we'll probably get a read when they get across the line this time around. In actual fact, I can see it right now, Hans. It's a very, very poor first sector for Kurt Stenberg on the previous lap, on lap 11. Look at the time there. It was a 19.8 through Sector 1 and a 20.0 through Sector 2 compared to Will's 19.2 and 19.5. So a huge chunk of time that Stenny lost. And given that one of the corners on this circuit at the top here, turn 4, is very, very easy to get out of step. So there's 2, turn 3 where Devonish is now. This turn here, turn 4, if you get it all wrong, then you end up off the grass on the right-hand side of the circuit or out in the marbles, and it can be a pain to gather up. You can actually see Stenny just there, just at that turn 4 there. He had a bit of an issue. The rear end wanted to get away from the car. There was a bit of sliding. We could see the puff of smoke come up as he tried to get the car angled back the right way and reapply the power. So I'm wondering if that's a little bit of a nervous race car, whether he's maybe used a little bit more rear tyre, the bars need some adjusting, or something just to smarten that car up a little bit.
I believe he's had a track cut in the first. No, he's not. So actually, it was just taking a while for live races to reset. But let's have a look at Devonish and Stenberg here. We've got the long shot and looking into the first corner. And that's just the way you have to drive it sometimes, because the first corner is another one of those corners where you do have to point it at the apex early.
Just like Brenton Foley's decided to do here, tried to point it in early. Pete Savage trying to take a late apex and try and get better drive up the hill. Works for some, doesn't work for others. In actual fact, for Pete on that occasion, it gave him about an extra half a car length, getting the power on just a little bit earlier, allowed him to pull that margin. And Lime Mitch is doing a pretty good job just to hang with these guys at the moment. Hopefully he'll get a bit of a yield when all the pit stops start to shake out. We're not even close to the half distance mark yet. We get to half distance when we get to about lap 18, 19 is when we sort of expect to see cars that are going to go with the even strategy, straight down the middle coming in. But if you can get a gain and go a little bit longer on that tyre for the first stint, if you're able to do it, you will get a huge yield. It was Foley's had a moment over the final corner. He was just trying to apply the blowtorch to the back of Pete Savage's number 88, and the rear end disagreed with that PBF Racing Team Commodore.
Asking a bit too much of the tyre at this early stage, perhaps. Not an ideal thing to do, considering we have to make them live to the halfway point of the race if you want to do the split down the middle strategy. But good showing here from Spencer. He's only dropped one position, and he's actually coming under attack from Luke Rosella. So Luke Rosella, he's moved up quite a fair bit. I believe 3 spots from the start. I'll have a look.
3 spots is correct. Right. Yep, 3 spots is correct.
So it turns out my numbers are right, and I can count, so happy days. It's nice to know that I can still do things. But Luke Rosella, he's actually showing himself to be quite a lot of pace on board, and he's going to go for the move again. He's going to go for the move into turns on the brakes late. Oh, see, look at that. That's a pretty good racer's technique. He's got some really good racecraft because he braked early, and he tried to just stick side by side with Liam Spencer, and Liam Spencer will have to yield anyway, but that prevented him from running wide because he needs to reduce his apex speed from taking a narrower line. So pretty good racecraft there.
That's exceptionally good racecraft. Luke Rosella's moved up 4 spots, started P10 up to P6. Now he is getting a livery together, we believe, to run a bit more full-time in this series in the Volvo, which will be great to see. And I believe he did some running in the ASC race here at Barbagallo on Tuesday night, and wasn't too bad. Sort of the lap times that he was doing are similar to the times that he's doing in the race and in practice and qualifying as well. So good consistent performance at the moment. What's his best lap at the moment for Luke Rosella? It's actually a 55.3. So that's not too bad at all, although we're pumping up his tyres a little bit here, and he locks a brake and sails on at the final corner. I'm going to say as well, Scott Nolan must have had a moment as well, because 1 minute he was looking behind, he was behind Liam Spencer. The next minute Luke Rosella was in between the pair of them and running deep at turn 1. All 21 runners still up and running at the moment, and it looks like Scott Stancliffe has decided to take some service as well. He did have a rear of grid start penalty. He's now gone a lap down along with Lime Mitch. So a couple of drivers taking the early option of an early stop, seeing if they can get a yield when all the other cars come in, but they'll have to take a little bit of pain toward the back end of the race and a little bit of tyre management to go along with it. Margin out in front, Hans, is out to over a second now, probably the biggest margin that it's been for some time.
Yeah, and they're setting quite similar lap times. Last lap by was 55.27 for Stenberg, and the last lap by for Devonish was a 55.23. They are somewhat locked in this they're locked in orbit at the moment. They're neither getting close. It's sort of like an equilibrium. So I think that mistake from Stenberg, unless he can have some sort of pace advantage later on in the race, I think it's looking quite stationary at the moment because they are very evenly matched.
Stenberg's taken a 10th out of Devonish on this particular occasion. It's just come to just over 1 second on the timing split. There it is, 1.065. It was about 1.1 about 60 or so seconds ago. They are starting to get to the back of some more lap traffic. So look down from the high shot at turn 1, seeing the different types of lines. It's actually taking pretty similar lines through turn 1. Looking for that long, late apex.
Savage has made a mistake somewhere, so we'll just see the lap by because he's dropped to 5th, so he's just fallen off somewhere on the road. We'll look at live races and see if that tells a bit more of the story.
Here he is in P5. So Foley's gone through, Mitch Hathaway's gone through, and just waiting here for live races to update us. It's probably happened a little bit of time ago.
Yeah, shocking first split for him. It's a 23.47. So he's made the mistake in the first split.
He's had a half spin or something somewhere, I'd imagine. That if you go off the road around the turn 4 mark, you lose a lot more time than about 3 or 4 seconds. But he's still tucked in there behind Mitch Hathaway, so Pete Savage has got some pace. Paul Morris, race control has issued a drive-through penalty for Paul Morris. Now, I did hear the hooters going off in the background as his teammate's gone wide at the final corner and Pete Savage has just gone sailing straight through. Hathaway's now going to be vulnerable to Luke Rosella in the Volvo. And I think pit stops have started to occur. Who's that in the lane that I just saw there? Is that Will Devonish?
Stenberg is in.
And is that Devonish in the lane? Yes.
Yeah, Devonish has taken service as well.
So yeah, here they are. So they came in on the same lap. So that pretty much nullifies any chance of them both making an undercut or an overcut on each other. And Will Devonish has got the better of that because look where Kurt Stenberg's come out. He's come out right in the middle of a pack. He's come out behind Brendan Ross, Wayne Spencer, and he's in there with Steve Burko as well. This is all for positional gain. So this is really giving Will Devonish a huge free kick at the minute.
Paul Morris did come for service in the last lap, so drive-through penalty for pit lane speeding infringement, and he's serving his drive-through penalty now.
So that's going to drop him right to the tail end of the field. So that's going to give the likes of Scott Stancliffe and Lyle Mitch a little bit of a free kick in terms of getting an extra position. Have a look at the way that this is blown out, though. So as Wayne Spencer comes into the lane, so that's one less car for Stenberg to worry about. But Brendan Ross, no slouch. He knows that this is the position, and he's going to get his elbows out. So sixth place, Brenton Foley, your effective race leader at the minute. Stenberg looks to the inside. Late dive at turn one. Job done.
Now he's 4 seconds in arrears of Devonish, who's currently holding down third position as we wait for Zach Ross and Brenton Foley to take service. And let's see how far they go in their stint, because they've got a bit of a gain here.
They're going to try and go a little bit longer and try and make as much use of that older tyre as they can. Try and get a newer tyre that'll give them something to fight with and pick off a couple of positions at the back end of this race. And Devonish down the hill. There goes Zach Ross. So that's one element out of the equation for Will Devonish. Is Brenton Foley still on the circuit, or is he in the lane? He is still on the circuit, still leading. Coming up to some lap traffic, so I would suspect that he would probably be in this lap to avoid having to negotiate some of this lap traffic, which is already a lap down. Scott Stancliffe has already been into the lane. The smart money would be get in, don't have to worry about tangling up with anybody, and get going. So far the driver behaviour tonight has been pretty good after a couple of issues in the opening race and the second race at Pukekohe. Does Foley decide to come in? No, he decides to go around again.
He perhaps has enough pace to get past the lap traffic quickly. Stancliffe, good presence of mind, gets out of the way in accordance with blue flags. Now his next target is Wayne Spencer and the Dominoes. Oh, what does he drive? A Volvo. I was going to say Commodore, Falcon, whatever it is. It's a Volvo.
Yes, a Volvo for Wayne Spencer. Now he's actually a lap ahead of Stancliffe, so the position for Wayne Spencer is 17th. He's the last car on the lead lap at the moment. He'll be fighting to stay on that lead lap as well. He wouldn't want to go a lap down to the current race leader. Effective race leader being Devonish is 13 seconds behind Foley. In actual fact, Devonish is making that new tyre work really, really well. He's actually cut that margin down to under 13 seconds now, so already seeing the benefit from fresh rubber. Foley really should be in very, very soon, because the people that he was racing all around him, the Mitch Hathaways and the Pete Savages and Zach Rosses, have all come in. They're all going to start to get a gain from having the fresher rubber. I think the longer Foley leaves this, the worse it's going to be, Hans, especially seeing that everybody is just about, or most of the field has started to tour the lane now at least once. There's Cam Rutledge coming out of the lane alongside Scott Stancliffe. I think about 2/3, if memory serves me correctly, just looking at rough math on your screen and on the live races, showing that that's about how many people in the field have already come through.
Incidentally, Phil Boak has not made his service either, so he's up in 5th at the moment. So waiting for the PBF cars to come in. Perhaps there's a bit of a strategic issue there, because they do share a pit boom. Now, they've got to time this to perfection and make sure that everyone gets their service, everyone gets their tyres and fuel, and everyone is happy.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing as well. In their timing, you don't want to be coming into the lane when you have your teammate in there, especially if they're chewing up all the bay. You've got the silly things that Automobilista does, where you can pit side by side, which in any other game wouldn't be allowed, but for some reason in this one it is. So the gap between Devonish and Stenberg is a visual gap. 54.6 that time around for Will. Fastest lap, 54.541 for Stenberg. So started to chop into the margin little bit by little bit. In actual fact, we have a look at the margin there. It is 4.6 seconds first, or net first to net second. Foley's still going. What was a 13-second advantage a couple of laps ago is now 10.8. The difference on new rubber to old rubber is substantial. Foley's still going, lap 25, mixing it in with the traffic. This is suicide, I think, Hans. He's having to negotiate lap traffic as well as try to preserve a tyre, and then always think about when he's going to come in for the stop. I'm trying to predict where he's going to come out here. Phil Boak, as you said, has done the same thing. He's up to P4, running P4 at the moment. Where on earth are these guys going to drop in when they actually have come in and taken their stops?
I don't think Luke Rosella has taken service either, and he's coming into the clutches of Peter Savage in the 88 JB Hi-Fi Falcon. Or maybe he has taken service. Oh, Savage is around. Oh, he was nearly around. He managed to catch that and only loses one spot out of that to teammate Mitch Hathaway in the sister car, the HDS Falcon for Lewis Simsport.
Yeah, he just had a moment off at the final corner. Let's bring that one up. So,
Stenberg had a moment going in a cold corner. He got a four-wheel drift going.
So here's Pete Savage coming down the hill. That's not the first time we've seen Stenberg with a swapper on. What did Pete Savage do? Missed the apex very slightly, just tried to pick up the throttle a little bit too early and actually did a pretty good job of saving that. So drop position to Hathaway, falls back into the clutches of Liam Spencer. And who's behind him is Scott Nolan. So they're still out there. They're circulating. So I think Peter and I think Luke Rosella has actually made a net gain, Hans. I'm pretty sure he's actually been in for a stop, just doing my rough math.
That's a pretty good strategy there, isn't it? Oh, incidentally, Luke Rosella's off. He's going to lose that spot. And another to Pete Savage. So he's going to go down. So a bit of a disaster there. We were pumping up his tyres. Let's see if we can find out what happened to him. It might be on replay. So he's up behind Phil Bloke. And is he going to make the move? Or does he get into him? Oh, it nearly goes up on its roof. He managed to catch that. So just couldn't sight his braking marker properly. And mistakes hit us all at the worst of times. But he's got pace on board, Luke Rosella. Expect big things from this fella.
Yeah, I think he showed his hand pretty early here. He's dropped all the way back down to 8. Still 2 positions up on where he started. I still think he's going to get a go. Now,
Foley's taking service.
Yep.
So Foley's coming out of pit lane now. He stays in third, does he?
Oh, he is. He has too. So he's somehow managed to make that work and stayed ahead of his teammate, Phil Boak. Now, has Phil Boak come in? No, Phil Boak hasn't, but Phil Boak's gone deep at the first corner, and he's going to drop position here to Pete Savage and Mitch Hathaway are both going to go through. So no service yet for Boak, and on top of that, look, he's going to get mugged. He's going to get mugged by Rosella. Liam Spencer's lining up to make a move as well. Scott Nolan's going to try and go around the outside of turn 4. That's a brave move if you want to try and pull that off. He didn't quite have enough speed to make that happen before they got to the corner. But Boak is hurting here. These tyres have started crying enough already, and that evidence was very much prevalent at turn 1.
Boak rejoined the circuit at pristine time for Luke Rosella, who was coming under serious attack from Liam Spencer and Scott Nolan. So that just managed to break that battle pack up, and Boak looks like he'll be in this lap. The tyres are murdered. They can't do anymore. They're screaming.
Yeah, this is a huge loss for him. Like, who's behind him? So Scott Nolan's gone through. Zach Ross is going to make a positional gain. So too's Brendan Ross. So there's at least 11th place for Phil Boak. Who else is behind him at the moment? There's a bit of a gap all the way back to Burko and Wayne Spencer. It looked like they might actually make this work for him as well. Yeah, Phil Boak's still in the lane. Car's still going up. I don't think it's even on the move yet, Hans. It's still got a long way to go before that service is completed. He's on the move now, so 13th currently on the road. He's going to drop positions.
He'll go a lap down for sure.
Yeah, Devonish is coming through right now. So Boak is going to go a lap down to the race leader. In actual fact, a number of the other drivers are going to go through as well. Paul Morris has gone through. Mitch trying to go through. Cam Rutledge has gone through as well. That has not worked out for Phil Boak. Going long on those sets of tyres has taught him a valuable lesson for the second race tonight.
Be kind to your tyres, everyone. Don't ask them to do too much. But Phil Boak it was worth a gamble because he is in 15th right now, and he's pretty much in the same position he started. He's exactly in the same position he started, but by the end of this race, he'll be pretty much in the same position he started. But he's coming under attack from the race leader, second place, Kurt Stenberg, who's having a bit of a moment. They need to get out of his way pretty quickly. But Will Devonish, he's got a rear gunner at the moment, rear gunner action in the form of team boss, Cam Rutledge. And look at that, Kurt Stenberg gets through. Not without a bit of hustle. He needed to work for that one. And they should have made it a bit easier. But these two are having their own race. So they can't just let him through and then somehow cede position to their direct competitor. It's the great mystery.
It's a bit hard too, especially when you are locked in a battle like that. You want to carry on that battle, but you've got to sort of be a bit sensible about it, and you've got to let the race leader or the race leaders through if you are going to go a lap down. And the rule of thumb that has been applied for a long time in AMS Oz is let the race leaders go around you. So stick to the racing line, be predictable, don't do anything rash.
Yeah, don't go to the opposite side of the racing line, and it's like you said, it's about being predictable and I guess holding your position in relation to the circuit, and easing off the throttle a little bit and just letting them through. But fortunately, it hasn't seemed to hurt Stenberg too much because he's about 4.25 second gap to Will Devonish. Is just hovering about that point depending on where they go. The accordion effect brings them together. He's now disposed of Cam Rutledge, so no longer a rear gunner action for the CRA Motorsport team, and now it will be a race to the finish. Next 6 laps. So
the margin 4.2 seconds, so Devonish has had a comfortable run, or a much better run through the traffic that Stenberg has. There's that drift again, Hans, right out to the white line as well. That's not the line you want to be taking through Cole Corner. Saw the onboard footage from our hot lap with Kurt Stenberg that trying to carry third gear is what you need to do, but you need to be a bit closer to the apex than that. Again, just asking a bit too much, just trying to push to make up that margin. There's a little bit more lap traffic ahead. I think that's Scott Nolan, who's the next man that Will Devonish is just dispatched of. No, sorry, it's Scott Stancliffe.
Scott Stancliffe
is dispatched, coming up to Wayne Spencer and Steve Burko. So the run through the traffic for Devonish has been much, much kinder, and it is again here, but this is just a...
Spencer there. No, he's out of the way. That's good. Oh, just that angle made it look like he was coming down on Devonish, but fortunately, no harm, no foul. And Devonish, he looks to consolidate his lead and a win, perhaps coming at the unlikeliest of places. Perhaps. There's still 6 laps to go in the race, 5 laps.
There's still plenty of time to go in this one.
It ain't over till it's over. Don't celebrate a victory you don't already have.
No, don't want to put the mockers on him for this one, but it's been a pretty kind race to him. He's pretty much led all of the laps from when he was out of pole to getting in for his pit stop. There was a bit of a car off in the background there. Was that was not Mitch Hathaway, that was Paul Morris off in the background on the grass. This is an interesting battle. Mitch Hathaway, Pete Savage and Luke Rosella are not too far behind. Here goes the Volvo again. Had a bit of a think about going down the inside of Pete Savage. That'd be a nice move again. He's made a stick. No, he hasn't. Pete Savage has outbroken himself, and that's easy pickings for the Volvo. But Rosella didn't make it easy for himself by lighting the tyres up off the final corner, and that has hurt any opportunity he had to out-drag the Falcon down to turn 1. So the move was on there. He feigned like he was going to make it. He pulled out of it. Savage spotted it, and actual fact missed his braking marker. But the two of them somehow managed to stay in the same positions. Rosella wasn't able to capitalise on the Savage mistake. There's another mistake, and now he's on the inside, and this is going to be an interesting move for Rosella down to Cole Corner. If he can hang on to it, side by side through one of the most unique corners in the country. Got to put the block pass on here. And he doesn't do it. Savage has got the over and under. But the better drive off of Cole Corner goes to the Volvo. He's going to stay on the defensive line. He's going to force Savage to go the long way around, takes the early braking. They do run side by side through the final corner. And this time they both managed to get off the final corner in one piece without sliding it, but the better traction goes to the Falcon. And again, side by side into the opening corner. This is a fantastic exchange, Hans.
He's still there. He can't quite shut the door yet, Pete Savage. But wow, fantastic racing there. Great racecraft from both drivers. And shows that Luke Rosella He's new to our series, but he's not afraid to get the elbows up.
And he's doing it fairly and squarely as well. And looking at a number of the Super 2 runners that have had a few dramas over the last couple of rounds, that's the kind of driving that you need to be able to do to be top flight in this series. Be able to run side by side, be able to realise where your opponent is weaker and where you're stronger, make the move, try and outfox them. Just like Luke Rosella's doing here, trying to go down the inside, trying to see if he can outfox Savage and get him to make a mistake or run wide and let him have the position. But he hasn't done it on this occasion, and very much alert to the task. And we expect that this one's going to go to the wire. We'll keep an eye on that one over the next 3 laps. Hathaway, if he makes a mistake, he's going to fall into the clutches of these two pretty quickly. Foley's having a bit of a lonely race in third. And has Stenberg been able to put much of a dint in the advantage of Will Devenish? The answer to that is no. It's pretty much stayed where it was when we looked last a couple of laps ago at 4.2 seconds.
Those two cars are quite evenly matched. In fact, I think the last lap round, actually, Will Devenish lost a bit of time the last lap round. He lost about 0.3 of a second, but I believe he is responding on this lap. Maybe, let's see what the, I've got the instant update of the timing splits here. Just hovering about 3.9 to 4.1 seconds, depending where they are on the track. It ebbs and flows so slightly. And now it's out to 4.5 seconds. So maybe Devenish is able to respond to some of the attacks that Stenberg is putting on. Just a bit of a side note, I really enjoyed watching the battle between Peter and Luke Rosella. Just the fact that Rosella could just dart out and then he just darts back in behind him. And that sort of, I think it's like pushing someone into a mistake. It's just intimidating driving. I like that. That's fantastic.
It's gamesmanship, I think, is probably the right word for it, or outfoxing.
That's exactly the word we needed.
Yeah.
That's exactly the word I needed, and I couldn't find it. But we saw Stenberg, he was getting sideways over the massive sausage curb that's at the Exeter turns. And he's just overdriving at the moment. He's just trying to make up all that ground on Will Devenish. It won't happen, barring any sort of mistake from Devenish, but he's there. He's near enough to capitalise on any sort of mistake. But Devenish, just a couple of corners now. We can't say it's over, because anything can happen in our series, in our Supercar AMS Oz series.
Yeah, he's been threatening to do this for a while. In actual fact, a number of the drivers in the field have been threatening to take a race win off Kurt Stenberg. We got pretty close to that with Brenton Foley at Pukekohe last round until he threw it off the road on the second of the last lap. But finally, the streak is going to be broken at 7 wins. Will Devenish becomes the second driver. It's hard for me to say that. The second driver this season to take a win, and we're at round 5. But fantastic drive for the number 15 CRE Motorsport entry. He thoroughly deserved that. Devenish takes the win from Kurt Stenberg in second. Be gutted not to step on the top step of the podium on this particular occasion, but he's still got one more to go. Brenton Foley home for third place, so Foley somehow managed to make that longer run on the tyres work and just find the right spot to slot back into the traffic. Mitch Hathaway gets home for fourth place, so he's the lead of the Falcons to get home. Pete Savage has managed to hold off a gallant Luke Rosella for 5th and 6th place in a fantastic exchange and a great starting position for Rosella come the second race tonight, which is a progressive grid. Liam Spencer, another top 10 finish, 7th on this particular occasion. It's not 5th like where he started, but still another top 10. He keeps racking them up, so he's going to be mighty pleased with all the top 10 finishes he's putting together. Scott Nolan faded from 6th to 8th. Still a good haul of points for the Synergy Sim racing man. Brendan Ross celebrating with some doughies on the donut pad. Another top 10 for him. And the last man in the top 10, Zach Ross, the Monster Energy Loose Sim Sport FGX Falcon.
What a race. What a race. That was fantastic. And we're just seeing some burnouts now. A few shenanigans. The two Rosses are together. We got Z Ross from one side of the country and B Ross from the other side.
We sure do. And
either ends of the alphabet as well.
I think they're just trying to line up for the photo here, but I think they've abandoned that because there's a few cars that can't get into their pit garages, so that's all just not going according to plan there. And the donuts are still continuing in the background, and we might leave it there for a few moments, I think, and we'll take a little bit of a breather from that one. Interesting race, Hans, that one was. Devenish, for the first time, managed to get a pole position off of Kurt Stenberg, or anybody for that matter managed to get a pole position off Kurt Stenberg. but he did really well to lead that race away, and the traffic just played into his favour, I think, in that opening stint, didn't it?
Yeah, Will Devonish managed to stitch together a perfect race from start to finish. We'll get his thoughts on it, but I believe that is what he needed. He's had races this season not go his way for all sorts of reasons, but now there was just absolutely nothing that was going to stop him. He was rampaging. He was ready to go. He wanted that win badly, and the drought is over for Will Devonish. Fantastic win.
Yeah, the drought is over and the streak is broken, which is, I guess, the one way we can put it. We've got our race winner here at the moment, actually. Will, you've been threatening to do this for a little while, and a couple of mistakes at Pukekohe didn't quite help your cause, but you've been putting the pressure on Kurt for a while. You've finally broken through for that elusive race win this year, though.
Yeah, really happy I finally got that over the line. It's been a monkey on my back the whole season, so it's glad I've glad I was able to do that and fairly dominantly. So I was happy with that result.
You sound a bit out of breath there, mate. Is that actually taking it out of you?
Oh, everyone in CRE are dribbling out of their chairs at the moment.
You guys have been pumping in the practice earlier in the week as well. So I guess all that practice combined with the race, it is a bit of a physical circuit, this one as well. It doesn't allow you any rest whatsoever.
No, that's like you've got two long straights, but one's over a hill and you have to be on it the whole time, or the car will you'll lose the car. And the front straight's not very long, so there's barely any rest. Um, so yeah, the concentration levels have to be there for the whole 40 minutes of the race.
Kind run through the traffic after the pit stop seemed to help your cause a lot as well.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the traffic's driving tonight, and I think I was lucky when I caught up to a lot of people, and of course the teammates were quite obliged to move out of the way as well. So yeah, I was lucky with the traffic.
No, very good to see that you've got yourself a win on the board. Makes up for a bit of the pain that you took at Pukekohe, and good to see you've got something to show for your efforts. You've been threatening for a while, as we said. You had a good run through the better part or the later part of the season last year, where your form really started to take a bit of an upswing, and good to see you're on the top step of the podium for this season. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Third place man Brenton Foley's here as well. Our second place man isn't, but our third place man is. Brenton, you went for a bit of a contrary strategy there. You took a lot longer to come in for your pit stop than a lot of the other guys around you did, but somehow you managed to make that work.
Yeah, I found that once when I was in a big battle with Peter, and every time I'd go for a dive or something like that, I just could not pull it off. My car doesn't seem to be the best at actually passing at the moment, but I was really, really consistent doing my own laps by myself, and I was watching the gap the whole time, and I was actually going to go even longer than I did it, but there was a bit of lap traffic in the way, so I decided to call it when I called it. But yeah, I knew that if I could just bang out consistent laps, I would pull out a bit of a gap, and it managed to work.
Yeah, well, you both yourself and Phil Boak sort of went for that longer strategy of making it to as far deep into the race as you can, trying to get a benefit from that newer tyre later in the stint. Probably going to be something that you think about trying doing in the next race, or given where you're starting, you think you're going to have to mix it up a little bit this time?
It completely depends how the start goes against Peter. If he gets me again, it depends when he pits. I might have to undercut, or I'd prefer to go for the overcut again. But hope I haven't just given it away. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that is my preferred strategy because as Will said, it's a very physical and demanding track. But when you're in a like a consistent groove, I really didn't want to break it, so I just kept banging out the laps, and I was looking at my times, and they seemed to be pretty consistent. I'm just slightly shy of Will and Kurt this round. I'm a bit closer than I have been in previous rounds, but still just that little bit away.
Yeah, you started to get a little bit of a wriggle on in the later stages of the Pukekohe round, and your form has sort of carried over into Barbagallo. Now, you were pretty handy around here last year as well, so given that, and it's one of those tracks that a lot of drivers seem to excel at with being a short circuit, very easy to learn, but being a physically demanding track, is outside of Bathurst, which we know is your forte, and last year you dominated there. Is this the kind of circuit that you enjoy? These tight sort of, very close together type tracks, or do you prefer the sort of more open, longer tracks?
Big sweeping corners is not my forte, so something like this is a lot nicer. Smaller radius corners and things like that definitely suits me a lot more than something like European tracks, for example.
Well, you somehow managed to make it work tonight, and you're going to be starting off the second row yet again for the second race tonight. So we hope you can possibly go one better, but if not, we're happy to see you on the podium again as we finish race 2. So congratulations on third place in the opening race tonight.
Thanks very much. I'll try my best.
Well, we'll let those two guys run along, and we'll get ourselves in the readiness room for the second race tonight. Just waiting on a few drivers that have bailed on the server to come back in. I'm not sure if all of them are going to make it, but hopefully they do. Hans, what do you make of that opening race there?
Yeah, it was a pretty good opening race, but there were no 360s by any of the PPF guys, so I guess it was rubbish compared to last year. No, it was actually quite a good race. Great racecraft. Good to see that. I mean, we'll do a bit of cross promoting here. There are some racecraft sessions that are on. If you're interested in getting involved with the series, you can learn some racecraft. It's great fun. I take part in my, and it actually, you can transfer it on anything, any sort of sim, any sort of online racing. And it just makes it a lot more fun when you're able to race someone and you know they're not going to fire you off, but you're going to have a hard and fair race. Really good to see all the battles up and down the field, and also to see that Will Devenish was sort of broke the back of Stenberg in the most unlikely of places, his home track, and one that he liked.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think everybody has sort of, got in their head, is that whatever their home circuit happens to be, they always want to do well. And look, for Will Devenish, he's managed to take a win off of Stenberg, yes. Is Stenberg going to be disappointed with that? Probably not. He's happy to be on the podium for his home race. He definitely would like to go one better, and even people like myself, you want to do well at tracks that you're familiar with and you've had a lot of time to practice at and you're intimately familiar with. On this occasion, second place for Stenberg is nothing to be frowned upon. He's still got his points advantage at the head of the field. And the good thing for Will Devenish is it just keeps him out of the clutches of Brenton Foley for just a little bit longer as well. Just managed to sneak away an extra handful of points in the championship standings. Who's your standout out of that particular race? For me personally, it's the debutant. It's got to be Luke Rosella. Mixing it up, he was potentially going to stare at a podium at some point if he didn't make that mistake that we saw him make at the final corner. He was possibly going to be fighting for a podium finish at the end of that one.
Yeah, absolutely agree there. I think you're spot on with the choice standout, and yeah, I'm going to be lame and agree with you, but I was absolutely going to say, if you didn't say Luke Rosella, I was going to say Luke Rosella for sure, because the kid, he's shown, I don't know how old he is, but we'll call him the kid. He has definitely shown a lot of pace, and he's able to consistently stitch that together, and he's got racecraft to boot, and that's all you.
Yeah, precisely. You've got good racecraft, and as we said, for any of the Super 2 guys that are watching this live or watching this back a bit later, the kind of racecraft that he showed when he was battling with Pete Savage, that's the kind of thing that we've been trying to teach a number of the drivers over the course of the racecraft sessions we've had in the last few weeks, is how to lay off people, how to be smart around people, leaving racing room, those sorts of things. And it really makes the racing great and exciting to see. And the good thing was we didn't have too many incidents in that opening race either. Everybody was pretty well behaved, and I don't think the stewards are going to have too much work to do. One of the big things that we did have happen here in a Super 2 race was coming out of Cold Corner and over the top, there was a very unsafe rejoin at the top of the hill. The driver didn't join the track in the right fashion. They actually joined in a perpendicular motion to the track, basically coming on at a 90-degree angle and almost wiping out a race leader. So we pretty much put the big no out for that and said if you do that, you are going to get a slam dunk penalty every single time. Big focus on rejoining the track safely, and for those drivers that did have some off-track excursions, it looks like they did precisely what they were instructed to do, which was great to see. So there's a little practice session just running at the moment while we get ourselves together for race number 2 and the grid gets set. So we're going to take this moment to step aside, have a short break, and we'll be back with race 2 in a few moments. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to round number 5, the Western Twin Sprint of the Automobilista Australia Supercars Championship for 2020. While we're just waiting for the practice session to finish up and the grid to be set for the second race, we might take a look at the upcoming events that are coming up for Automobilista Australia over the next week or so. So there it is. The next one is tomorrow night, actually. Hidden Valley Raceway plays host to the next round of the Super 2 Championship, having already been through the likes of Barbagallo, Albert Park. Last time out it was Townsville. Tomorrow night it's Hidden Valley, and I believe that's going to be a 3-race affair. If you'd like to tune into Super 2, you can have a look at the Loose 89 channel. That'll be live tomorrow night with Lewis Wedding in commentary. Track Day Challenge returns on Monday the 25th of May, one of the series that is going to take a little bit of a hiatus when it comes to a conclusion in about a month and a half's time. So too is TCR Oz. Only 3 rounds left to go for TCR Oz with Simmons Plains and a couple of other rounds still to go. I think the finale, I believe, is going to be Sandown for that one. That's on the 26th of May. That was being live streamed on the Loose 89 channel, but due to, again, the TCR Oz cars being put out to pasture, Lewis Wedding has decided that he wants to have a bit of a run in those. There will be some onboard streaming from Aldo Benedetti's point of view. If you want to have a look at the Italian Stallion negotiate the Simmons Plains Raceway, then yes, you can tune into the Loose 89 Sims Sport channel. And then, well, the one that Michael the Floodman Zalavari and Kiwi Chris Riddell bring to you every Wednesday that it happens, every Wednesday fortnight, the TCAC AWD, one of Brock Harvey's fun little series and mods that he's put together, and the street circuit of Ribeiro Preto, the 2012 layout of Ribeiro Preto, and well, what carnage that is potentially going to be, Hans.
And don't forget to tune in, because one H. Brunswick, the commentator, will be racing in that, if I can find a car to race in it. But I was moonlighting in Topher Fields Drive go-karting VW Scirocco. So I'm going to say that the VW Scirocco was an absolutely rubbish car to drive, but it looks quite good though. But no, it's good fun, the TSAC series, and we had some mysterious bloke called Floody11 managed to put it on pole, and I don't think he has a real method of input yet. So watch out once he gets a wheel. He's gonna be an absolute superstar, Michael Floodman Zalavari. And we'll be struggling to get him back to stream, I guarantee you. But no, it's a good series, that, and yeah, make sure you tune in, because yours truly will be in it. No, not pumping my own tyres up or anything. I'll probably finish at the back and get no TV time.
Yeah, Michael Zalavari actually has, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, his method of control input is actually a Nintendo Switch controller. I know there's a few people out there that are still running controllers, and there's at least 2 or 3 of them in Automobilista Australia, but the Switch controller is definitely a unique beast, and not anything that we would recommend that anybody does on a regular basis if you want to be fast, but somehow he's managed to put it on pole on a race that was not streamed and has not been streamed yet. I know they're trying to get themselves together to have a run at calling that particular race, but they haven't managed to get it up and running. They have had some real life commitments that have prevented them from doing it, but the Short Shift Motorsport podcast channel is the one that holds all the TCAC AWD, all the TCAC Retro, and the normal ones as well, and will be hosting the upcoming ATCC round, which is a lockout. The amount of registrations have exceeded the interest, and Brock has had to shut that down. So we're looking forward to seeing some of the old school VL and VK Commodores going around and mixing it up with the Sierras and the Skylines and those sorts of things. We're definitely going to be looking
And the Volvo brick. Don't forget the flying brick Volvo.
Oh yeah, that's the Volvo
Box
2.
aerodynamics. Peak box 80s aerodynamics. You've got the 190E Mercedes. You've got the BMW E30. Fantastic cars.
Yeah, some old school ATCC cars going to be going around in a couple of months' time once they get all of that together. Now we just ticked over into a warm-up session, so I believe they've got the grid ready to go, and yes, they have actually done, and they're advancing to the race session in approximately 40 seconds' time. So as the timer counts down, we won't be too far away from bringing you the next race. So race 9 of this year's championship. quite a long way to go actually in the season. So if we have a look at our Supercars calendar, there we are, round number 5, Barbagallo Raceway. The next stop is Calder Park, another one that's going to be a twin sprint affair. And you can see all the way through there, all the ones that have twin sprint next to the name feature as a dual 90k race format. And then there's some longer format races as well, the 200k races, a couple of 250 still to go at Phillip Island. The Bathurst 1000 is still being worked out as to how that's going to come to be, but there'll be a bit more info to be released on that in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So for those of you the Super 2 or Supercars drivers watching this back, stay tuned for some announcements, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, as to how that Bathurst 1000 is going to operate. We're just getting ourselves in order now. Looks like the cars are gridding up. Just waiting on our pole sitter to make his way onto the grid. About half the cars out there at the moment. And just looking at our screen just to see how many drivers we have in there. Looks like we may have still got all 21 drivers in the field that started the race. The only one I think that may be missing, we may have gained one. Scott Stancliffe is in the servo. I was just looking to see where he was, because there was talk he may not make the final race tonight, but he's out there. We can see him just at the back of shot on the left-hand side on the grid. And he won't be too far away from getting a formation lap underway. And here we go. So, pole sitter in this progressive grid format, Will Devenish finally breaking the hoodoo and getting a race win this season. So Kurt Stenberg alongside him. So the front row, the same as what it was to commence race 1, the same again in race 2. Brenton Foley's going to have a different teammate for company on the second row of the grid. Starting out third, he's going to have Mitch Hathaway's loose SimSport HDS car alongside him. So another Falcon, just a different livery on this one. Pete Savage went back a spot from where he started, so he'll start off the third row. We've had a disqualification for Paul Morris. Now, what's happened to him? I think he may have left the pit lane and crossed over the line, so that's a loss for him. Luke Rosella, our star performer from last race, up 4 spots, will start P6. Keep an eye out for this very, very quick number 34. Then we go back in the field. We see back there we've also got Liam Spencer, who's going to be out of position number 7. There he is. Alongside him, Scott Nolan. As our broadcast cameras are just having a few issues getting back and forth at the moment. Brendan Ross out of P9. Zach Ross in 10th place, the Monster Energy Loose SimSport Falcon. Phil Boak, P11, sharing a row with Wayne Spencer, the other half of the Spencer equation. Cam Rutledge and Lyle Mitchell will be on the 7th row of the grid. Termo, P15, is going to share a grid row with Dwayne Davies. Rounding out the field, Caelan Duncan, the only Nissan in the field. Good to see Nissan representing. Rhodey in his new livery, the Penrite Super 2 livery. Adam Marjoram's livery, we believe that is. Scott Stancliffe out of 19th. Steve Burko out of 20th. And we have lost Paul Morris. Just waiting on a little bit of a form up at the back of the grid. Hopefully it's a little bit quicker than the last time. And yes, it is. Good to see everyone's in position this time. Second race tonight, 38 more laps. Race 9 of the championship is away now. Again, Stenberg gets a much better reaction time off the front row of the grid. This time he's alongside Devenish, and he's going to have the whole shot into turn number 1 on this particular occasion, and he prevails early. Will just feathers the throttle, feeds back in between Stenberg and Brenton Foley. Much better start from Kurt Stenberg that time around, Hans.
Kurt Stenberg converted off the start. He used the inside line to his advantage, pole being on the outside here at Barbagallo. And these two, they've been locked together pretty much all season. Let's see if this race continues the trend. Got Will Devenish, he just shows the nose a little bit. Brent Foley up in a third. He held his position in third, rather. Mitch Hathaway in fourth. Luke Rosella, he's up in a fifth. 1 position off the start. Peter cedes position into sixth. Liam Spencer, Scott Nolan. Brendan Ross, he's looking pretty racy. Scott Nolan goes for the block. And Scott Nolan defending on the inside from Brendan Ross. Zach Ross, he's got the best seat in the house. He's watching this. Oh, a massive spin at the front.
Huge spin. Stenberg's around. I'm not sure who got involved in that, but Kurt Stenberg went around at the final corner. That is absolutely massive for the championship leader. And it looks like Devenish is redressing a position here. I'm wondering if he got into Stenberg. This is going to be interesting. Let's take a look at this on the replay. This is championship defining, or race weekend defining. So here we go. Devenish was down the inside. couldn't get it stopped, and there's a little bit of a tag. Yes, there was. So around they go, got side-to-side contact with Foley. Rosella did well to avoid it. Stenberg did pretty well to stay off the line there, and I think with Will slowing down to redress that position, he's indicating that that's his fault.
Perhaps that's going to be a penalty. I'm not sure. I just don't know if redressing the position will make up for it. I mean, considering they are the main championship challengers and they are quite a way ahead, I'm not sure about that. But perhaps it fits protocol. We're not sure. That's a curveball, that one. We'll put it that way.
Well, it's captured on the broadcast, and immediately everything captured on the broadcast is reviewable outside of everything that is reported by drivers individually, for instance, during the night. So that one will definitely be looked at. The contact was very, very minor. It looked like Stenberg was a little bit wide of the corner. Devonish just couldn't get it stopped in enough time, and there was a little bit of contact as they both slid wide to the outside of the corner. That has absolutely buried them deep in the field as they have to pick their way through the traffic now. That leaves Brenton Foley out in front with Mitch Hathaway behind him, Peter up to third, and we've seen Luke Rosella's just dropped all the way back down to seventh, so he's made a bit of a mistake somewhere, was running a lot further up the order. He would have been in position 3 with those two leaders having gone off the road. But they're coming up to some battles that they're going to have to just be careful how they pick themselves through here. Rutledge wisely steps aside here and lets Stenberg through. That makes his teammate and Will Devonish a little bit of a bottleneck. I'm sure Cam will just stay wide here and let his teammate through, and he does. So easy pickings that time around.
Luke Rosella got caught up with the drama with Will Devonish and Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, so that amount of time that he lost going across the grass, it didn't look like it was significant enough that he lost that much. I thought he'd made another mistake somewhere else, but having to take the evasive action has cost him that many spots. I didn't think it was that much of a penalty though, but he's still not that far out of being right with the front runners, and he's still giving Brendan Ross a bit of a hurry up. And I think we'll go back to that battle now, and here he is. So sandwiched in between Brendan Ross, and he's got Zach Ross behind. So slideways action for Zach Ross through the final corner. Foley continues to lower the benchmark here. This is what he was telling us in his opening remarks when we interviewed him after race number 1. Running on his own in clean air, he was absolutely happy, but anything outside of that, he was having some trouble. But being at the head of the field, now he's got the luxury of setting his own pace as Liam Spencer's gone a bit deep. Brendan Ross is going to try and stick his nose at the inside of turn 4, but he's on the wrong side for turn 5. They'll go side by side through here, and is Luke Rosella going to try and make it 3 wide? No, he thinks better of that, and that's better racecraft. But he's going to try and stay with Liam Spencer if Spencer can hang it through the inside here. Bit of bump and grind.
Nose to tail, bump and grind, yeah. And everyone's sliding, so we just see Luke Rosella struggling to get traction, Zach Ross as well. But there were a 3-car train. It was Liam Spencer and Rosella and Ross. They were all together at Cold Corn.
Brendan Ross is going to prevail here for the moment round the outside, but he's gone a bit wide at the final corner, comes across the curb motocross boom style. And now Rosella decides it's time to pick off Liam Spencer. Gets down the inside at turn 1. Zach Ross is trying to go with him here. There's a little bit of side-to-side contact, very nearly sent the number 4 around. Just feathered the throttle and got out of that one, Zach Ross. And in the end, it has cost time to Luke Rosella. Look at the battle pack forming behind Liam Spencer now. Sideways again for Zach Ross. Phil Boak's in this. Lime Mitch is in this. And then here come the other race. Then here come the rest of the former race leaders as well. They're right on the back of this about 7 or 8 car long train now. There's Stenberg making a move, or looking to make a move on Steve Burko. Geez, they're having to really fight hard to pick their way through this field. This is not like Pukekohe was. Pukekohe, at least you had an opportunity to get past cars into some corners. You've really got to fight hard to make it happen at this circuit.
It's elbows up racing at this stage of the race. Every position comes at a premium around this circuit. And it's almost favourable to start up the front here, because if you do start up the front, you can set your own pace and you can drive the way you want to drive, as Foley's doing now.
Yeah, slowly eking that margin out. Now to 1.7 seconds. So
Peter's up to second, incidentally.
Yeah, so he looks like he's just got past Mitch Hathaway in the last little bit. I think Hathaway may have made a mistake actually coming out of turn 4 and up through turn 5, because that position changed very, very rapidly. Oop. Get our replay graphic to actually start behaving itself. And actual fact, no, he got the move was done probably off the final corner by the look of it, because our replay's cut all the way back to the opening corner, and that move has already been done.
Luke Rosella, meanwhile, Liam Spencer is out. He's off the road at the final corner, and he's hit. Oh, the big drum everywhere. So we've just seen Devonish. He got into Wayne Spencer. So both the Spencers coming into calamity at turn 7.
Bring that up on the replay. So here he was tucked in behind Luke Rosella. So Rosella went to the defensive line here, made his one move, stayed to the to the right, which he had to do. Spencer ducked out to try and go around the outside and just plain out broke himself. And the contact was not too bad, actually. It was just clouded with the rear left corner. And then, yeah, a little bit of checking up between the Volvos and that as well. Spencer comes on in between Termo and Rutledge. So that hasn't worked out for him in that occasion. But the move was there. The space was left on the outside. Spencer just couldn't make it stick. Now he's just going to have to bide his time, pick off a couple of cars, and hopefully through the pit stop sequence he can find himself back inside the top 10, which he's been doing and doing very, very well. But that's the first sign of trouble and first real proper mistake that we've seen from him that hasn't been his doing.
I think he's just unsighted his braking marker, and having a car on the inside has just had him all flustered. But Liam Spencer, let's see how he can drive through the field now.
Yeah, let's see if he can do the same sort of thing that Devonish and Stenberg have been doing before him. They're in the same Discord as the rest of the CRE crew as Liam Spencer, and Kurt Stenberg off on his own in another part of the Discord universe. But there'll be definitely some words of encouragement being exchanged, hoping to get this young man back toward the pointy end of the field. There was a localised yellow flag just for a split second. That's now been retracted down here at Cold Corner. Let's move our way back through the field. The next closest battle again is this Rosella battle that he heads. Phil Boak, who's tucked in behind Zach Ross. Stenberg in there as well. Lime Mitch separating Stenberg and race 1 winner Will Devonish. And Boak's all over the back of this Falcon right now. That left the door wide open for Stenberg, but he wasn't close enough to make it stick and try and pick off another spot. So P9 is where the TTR Commodore is at the moment. 10th place for Will Devonish. We've lost one driver from this race so far, Scott Stancliffe, out in 20th position. And of course we did lose Paul Morris with a disqualification at the start. Just a little bit of a brain fade, I think, just forgetting that you can't cross the pit lane exit line if you're starting from the pit lane. And through goes Stenberg and Devonish. So they are through. The next man up for them is the other West Australian in the field, another one of the West Australians, Zach Ross.
Bit of parochialism here. Does he let the fellow West Australian through? Let's see. Let's see how easy it makes it. Does the cork go in the bottle afterward? No, Zach Ross, he knows what he's doing. He is well aware of the rules, and they are quite clearly fast the car. So he's not going to do anything rash here. He'll get out the way when he's up. Probably
oh no, we bunted him. That's bad for Will Devonish. That's huge. That's a massive mistake. There was not a gap there that you needed to try and do that to. I could imagine he didn't want to let Stenberg get away, but that has cost a position again to Will Devonish, and he's letting Zach Ross back through. But that's a horrible mistake. That's the get their itis thing yet again.
Yeah, get there itis, and the fact is there was absolutely no way a pass could have been made there, and he's just wanted to get in there as quick as he possibly could and wasn't thinking about doing it at the next sensible opportunity. The red mist descended, and unfortunately he's just made a mistake.
Yeah, and he's tried it again there at the final corner as well, and he wasn't far enough alongside, so he's got to cool the jets here. I get it. You don't want to let people like Stenberg get away, and now he's got his elbows out, and now there's over and under all over again. So, as you said, the red mist has descended. He's just not driving the car straight enough. I think Zach's probably... Oh, and Zach's giving him a return serve.
Return serve.
Big return serve. So that was brewing for a while.
I don't think that was intentional though, because they've been getting together, and like you said, the red mist descends. They think they can go that way into the corner, and perhaps he wasn't expecting him to cut across the way. It's just probably a line ball call there. We'll look at the onboard.
Yeah, let's take a look at the onboard here. There was Dwayne Davies there. We just can't see it from where we are. The camera's a little bit out of sync.
Oh, he's had no room. He's had no further room to be able to go across. Perhaps he could have gotten out of the throttle there, but happens fairly quickly. We've seen cars have been able to go too wide through there, if they're careful. But disaster for Will Devenish. Gets his first race win of the season after his first pole, and it's all gone awry here. It's all gone pear-shaped.
Yeah, I think the stewards are going to have a little bit of a busy review after this second race is over. There's definitely been a few incidents worthy of being looked at. It's cost Zach Ross dearly. It's put Will Devenish, where's he on the order now? He's now down to 13th place. Down all the way from where he started.
Oh, meanwhile, Stenberg's having some dramas. He's trying to get stopped. He's gotten into the back of Brendan Ross. Luckily, no further incidents for them. But he was all crossed up into cold corner.
I actually just realised I was talking for a bit there and I was actually muted. The Stenberg is being held up quite drastically here by Brendan Ross. Now gets the pass done down the inside at turn 7. That was actually saying that Phil Boak was probably becoming the beneficiary from that as long as Rossi could continue to hold Stenberg up. But
Mitch Hathaway, incidentally, into the pits. First car to take service.
well, that's a bold call. He's come in from very far up the order, actually. Now, the question will be for us, Hans, is where he feeds out. Does he feed out into clean air? You're watching this from on high at the moment in the back of shot just to see where he actually comes into play here. And I think it's 15th place for the moment and into a clear zone of traffic with nothing on the track. So that's actually pretty good for him.
Now, let's see if this provides a gain for him later on, because he's coming in at that. He's probably 4 laps early of the split down the middle strategy, but the longer you can go on an existing tyre set, the more you can push the later tyre set. So we'll see how that... Scott Nolan, last lap round, he had a bit of a mistake as well. He ended up on the former pit access road that goes off to the left there, where the AZ sign is, or the AZ sign is, as they say in Australia. And here we go. Here we got Luke Rosella making a move. He's far enough up. He's at the B pillar. Going side by side now. One of them has the seat position, and Luke Rosella just slots back in. And that's what you should do there, because it's very hard for 2 cars to go. You can do it, but you've got to be ultra careful doing it. You've got to be tippy-toeing around, put it there pretty much.
And as I say, you always got to have a willing participant to be able to do it as well. Scott Nolan's got his mirrors full of his Volvo right now, and Stenny's just sitting back there, just waiting to see what happens and pick his opportunity about who he goes with. Now, you see there, different contrasting lines. Rosella tried to stay as tight as he could through Cole Corner and try and command a bit of space down here at the inside. And Stenberg decides, you know what, I'm going to go into the pits here. I don't want to buy into this battle. I want to come out in some clear air and I want to try and run my own race here. So while he dives into the pit lane, this battle over what is currently 3rd place continues on. And it may be settled in the favour of the Volvo at this particular corner, but no. Or yes, I can't decide what I want to do here. That particular occasion, it does get decided in favour of the Volvo. I thought for a little bit that Rosella would roll out of it and leave the outside to Scott Nolan. But no, he decides to keep his foot in it and up to 3rd place with stops for the leading cars not too far away. Rossi slides it through turn 5. That was a very nice shot from the curb cam.
Stenberg rejoins the race in 15th position, so he's behind Mitch Hathaway. Mitch Hathaway solidly getting the undercut there, but Mitch Hathaway's come up on the back Cam Rutledge, and this is poor position. He doesn't have to go past. He doesn't have to let him pass. He lets him pass now, just over the curb cam sort of area, into cold corner now. But there was a bit of front to tail contact, but luckily no further issues there.
A good run from Mitch Hathaway, actually. Probably making a smart call, getting in and trying to get the pit stop over and done with. But again, playing the long game with the second set of tyres. He's going short on the first run, longer on the second run. Goes to show you as well how much of a gain Kurt Stenberg has made. There he is back a shot. how much of a gain he's made despite the contact that happened on the opening lap. He's started to fight his way back upfield.
Luke Rosella has just come out of the pits.
Here we go.
This joined the race.
This will be interesting.
Just behind Stenberg, actually.
No,
just
in front.
No,
in front.
Good move there.
Smart call probably as well, I think as well.
Hathaway's off the road. Hathaway's off the road.
He's in the boonies. Oh, he's done this. Now, the drivers were being spoken to about this because this is a dangerous corner. You've got to get back on so you don't miss the sector marker, and he's done that very, very well, because if you go too far and you miss the sector marker, you end up going a lap down. Now, I would suspect he's either outbroke himself here or he's whacked a curb, which has unsettled the car and sent that car off into the boonies, as Lewis would call it. Looks okay through there. No, just got the swapper on, just completely missed his braking marker. And, yep, up and over that little hump. You don't want to go much further than that, because otherwise you're going to be going all the way to the other side of the circuit and you're not coming back. So that has dropped in position to Kurt Stenberg and to Luke Rosella. So that has not worked out for Hathaway. So the early stop paid the dividend, kept him in front of him, but then he went and made a silly mistake and he falls in behind the pair of them.
Nolan, incidentally, has taken service and he's just behind Luke Rosella now, so they resume hostilities just like a couple of laps before, and that's what Kurt Stenberg tried to avoid, and he's back in it now. So fantastic there. It was a good strategy actually initially to get Stenberg out of traffic. That was really good, but unfortunately it's just, oh, Luke Rosella, has he disconnected?
I think there's a possibility. I think it's a possibility.
No.
Has he?
He's back.
No, he has. He must have had a moment or something, or something must have had a frame rate drop or a really weird issue there, because we did see the car disappear on the screen. Yeah, he's having some dramas at the minute. He's having some technical dramas. So that's not gone well. I was about to say how much he'd actually made a gain, because in the pit stop sequence he'd made an awfully huge gain on Scott Nolan, but then he's having some of these little dramas at the moment. It looks like he's finding he's going all the way down the timing screens at the moment. Just keep an eye on him, Jans, to see if it comes good for him again, see if it settles down. But that, whatever the glitch was, that's cost him a huge chunk of time.
Very confusing, because he just comes into view and then he goes out of view again. It's like he's lagging or something like that. It's just very strange. I've not seen anything like it.
Stenberg, meanwhile, after stop, drive through Phil Boak. So that he would have just come off the pit lane after having taken service. So now there is a slightly higher pit lane speed tolerance this time. It actually is a 60k pit lane speed limit instead of the usual 40. So we were hoping that that was actually going to stop a lot of the pit lane speeding penalties that we had been seeing, but clearly not tonight, because we've had a pair of them. Phil Boak in this race, and then Paul Morris in race number 1. Stenny moves up to 6th, setting the fastest lap of the race that time around, 54.8. Incidentally, Will Devonish has decided to go long in this particular stint, so it's lap 21 now. He's yet to come in, so he's trying to find a way to make a gain based on all the stuff that's happened to him over this race. It's still going to drop him well down, or even if he was to come in now for a stop, he's going to find himself probably outside the top 10.
Brenton Foley has come in from the lead to take service, and he's on the move again, so he'll probably rejoin the race in about 3rd or 4th. And the Spencers are together, actually, father and son. Right now it's in favour of Liam Spencer, who's car 4 in 4th place, and sorry, I think I've mixed it all up.
I think they're
I've totally mixed it all up.
Yeah, you've mixed it all up. That's all right. We'll let you unmix yourself by looking through the order and figuring that one out. Foley's come out in the net 3rd place. Mind you, Brendan Ross and Will Devonish are yet to stop, so he is still the effective leader of this race. Now, Liam Spencer, I don't know if he has stopped or not, and I think Pete Savage, I believe, has stopped. Now, Foley did make mention that it was dependent on when Savage came in for his stop as to when he decided to come in and stop. And I would imagine what's happened is Savage has been in and Foley's been in immediately a lap later. But this is for position. Number 88's on the right-hand side, so he's got some space here. And he goes through quite easily at the end of the day. So that means we've got a Holden in first, we've got a Ford in second, and net 3rd is going to be Liam Spencer for the moment, just pending what's happening with the stops. I might get you to have a look into the live timing there, Hans, to see if Liam Spencer has indeed stopped, because I'm not 100% sure that he has. We did see he had that off-road excursion a lot earlier. And as we look through a lot of the times, he had a 1 minute 2 lap back on lap 7, which was that off-track excursion. So Liam Spencer is yet to stop, which means Kurt Stenberg is your effective third place man at the moment, and being held up a little bit here by D2 Dwayne Davies, who is a lap down to the race leader, lets him go through. So that now resolves that little issue. I suspect Liam Spencer is heading for the pit lane now, and indeed he is, so that means he comes out of 4th place on the road. Brendan Ross is in the lane as well, so that means our field becomes cleansed, and we find ourselves with Brenton Foley at the head of the field from Pete Savage and Kurt Stenberg. Now, also, while Brenton Foley was in the lane, his teammate Phil Boak took his drive-through ahead of him. So Boak on track at the moment, ahead of Brenton Foley. There he is, in front of shot, and about a second and a bit up the road. So it won't be too long before Foley gets to that rear bumper, and the blue flags come out. Brenton Foley will be on the radio saying, "Excuse me, please, Mr. Boak, I'd like to come through."
Now I'm just having a look at Luke Rosella. He's holding down 12th place at the moment, so whatever happened there, it seemed to have rectified itself, but not without some casualty there, because he should be further up.
I've seen that before. It is a bit of a game lag issue where the session type freezes and it only resumes when the game wants to resume it. Then it sends all that data in one huge packet run or data run to the server, and by the time it realizes where you are on the circuit, it says, nope, you were stationary there for a long time, and it doesn't put you back where it was because you haven't obviously put any other steering inputs or that as you went around the circuit. We've been keeping an eye on Kurt Stenberg. He's been flashing up with some fastest lap after fastest lap after fastest lap in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. So he's been doing some wonderful things to try and catch the back of Pete Savage as Foley and Boak negotiate the traffic. That's Caelan Duncan in the Nissan. Next man, and he'll have to be aware of, is this JB Hi-Fi entry of Pete Savage. A number of the loose SimSport cars running different liveries this round. This one's got the JB Hi-Fi logo on board. We've seen ones for Zach Ross with the Monster Energy logos on board, just to differentiate the cars a little bit. Some teams elect to run the same livery but have a slight variance on their cars, such as different wing mirrors or a slightly different banner logo or so and so forth. Loose SimSport have decided, you know what, we don't want to have all the cars looking the same anymore. We want to go with a little bit of a different colour palette for each one and a different sponsor to suit. So probably not a bad choice. Definitely from our point of view up here, Hans, big tick. Means we know which car is which.
They're all colourful. That's what the nice thing is about them.
That's probably the best word to describe it, isn't it?
We've got a very colourful field full of very colourful drivers.
Yeah, we have. And on top of that, we've actually got probably some of the best liveries I think that we've seen in not only Supercars, but GT3, the livery pack has been outstanding this year. Some of the drivers have really upped their game in terms of producing liveries for the series this year. So hats off to everybody that's done that work. I know Lewis has done quite a lot of work with the loose SimSport cars, both the HDS ones and the Team Loose SimSport ones. Even the Top Gear Racing ones he did a fair bit with as well. So hats off to everybody that's done a supreme effort getting the cars to look the way that they do. Now this is working in Foley's favour here. He's moved ahead of his teammate, Phil Boak, who's a lap down now to the race leader. The first car a lap down in 16th. Becoming a bit of a cork in the bottle here. Just holding up Pete Savage for a little bit. Pete will be hoping that doesn't continue for much longer because Stenberg is starting to take some nice little bite-sized chunks out of this advantage. And it won't be too long if this continues that Stenny's on the back bumper of the number 88. Where has Will Devonish come out in all of this? After his pit stop sequence, he's come out in 6th place. So given what's happened to him this race, not a bad return, but I dare say he's going to have possibly some sort of a time-based penalty coming for those couple of indiscretions. The first one with Kurt Stenberg and the second one with Zach Ross. Because Zach Ross, if you look down the order, he's 13th, still on the lead lap, but he's been pretty badly affected by those pair of exchanges that happened on in the first half of this race.
Yeah, Stenberg is still a chance to take this victory because he's within sight. Things can happen, and I can't quite tell who that is ahead. No, it's actually Phil Boak. It looked like when the car flashed by on the screen, I thought it had those little yellow windshield strips which differentiates which differentiates Brent Foley's car, which has, it's a very HRT-esque type thing, I think. So those who are anoraks on that sort of thing, like me, I noticed.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to tell some of those two PBF cars apart. You can see the Phil Boat car there has pretty much a very similar livery as we go up to Brent Foley's one to your current race leader, but you're right, there are a very couple of subtle differences between the two. Most of it being that there's an Apex rear wing logo on the back of Brenton Foley's car, which is paying homage to the other series that he runs in, as a drive-through penalty for Lime Mitch. Now, can you find Lime Mitch for me, Hans, to see if he's just come out of the pit lane, because that possibly is a pit lane speeding infringement for Lime Mitch. And no, it's not. It's actually a track violation. So that's an interesting one. So he's had one too many track cuts, Lime Mitch. He was up there in 7th place. He's been one of the wild cards that's been doing some pretty good things. And unfortunately, he's taken liberties with some track violations. Didn't look too innocuous, but just maybe running a little bit too far over that turn 7 curve, running a bit too far along it, rejoining a bit too far down, and just the wrong point in time. And the stewards have said, nope, that's enough. You will not be out on the circuit for a little bit. You'll come and have a drive-through, and then you can see if you can behave yourself.
Yeah, that was strange. I couldn't quite. I had to search through the replay. I couldn't find anything looking to.
Oh, off the road. Sorry, that's
Ooh.
D2. Dwayne Davies off the road there at turn 1. Now, I don't know if he was getting out of the way of Devonish and Ross, who were coming through. I was just flicking back to see that battle and how it was unfolding. It was one of the closest ones on the track. And then we saw D2 off in the weeds, letting these guys go through, I think. Now, they're trying to hunt down Mitch Hathaway for 4th place. So for Devonish, this is really important. The more positions he can gain and the closer time-wise he can be to the leader at the checkered flag is going to help him in his cause if he ends up with a time penalty for those collisions, which we're not going to speculate too much on, but we do believe that there was the one at the final corner was definitely contact from the rear from him that he probably will wear the penalty for. But those two with Zach Ross are going to be the ones that are probably going to be looked at the hardest. Bit of a fall from grace from race 1 winner. Bit further down the field.
Swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
It is a bit of swings and roundabouts. Now, Lime Mitch, after serving that drive-through, has come in behind Liam Spencer. So Spencer's managed to find his way back into the top 10, having stopped, having done his best to get back onto the track and get going again after the off-track excursion at turn 7. Now, Steve Burko's done pretty well to get himself into the top 10 here as well, up to P8. Where did he start? He started, look at that, up 13 spots. He started right down the back of the field. He's kept his nose clean. The Super 2 front runner doing pretty well. It was pretty handy around here in his Holden Racing Team Commodore in Super 2. He won't want to give this up really easily either. Still 7 laps to run after this one's over. And good to see Liam Spencer's recovered and keeping that top 10 streak intact. Hans, what are you looking at here? You're looking at some interesting wing angles, I guess, with the different cars that are running around at the moment. You're watching Wayne Spencer at the moment and a couple of other cars on the screen just to see what they're all up to. Looking down the inside there is Liam Spencer at turn 1 on Steve Burko. So already looking pretty racy, wanting one more position. Steve Burko, we'll see if we can get the rear wing camera here. So this is on top. Oh, that's actually a bit of a weird angle. We were hoping that was going to present a little bit more of an interesting angle, but for some reason Spencer's car couldn't be seen there. We might see if we can go to the onboard for... sliding it in! Sliding it in is Liam Spencer. He's going to lose 2 spots.
He caught it though. He caught it. He didn't go around, but it was a half lose, and that loses him probably about 7 seconds.
That loses him a chunk of time. Now, that's worthy of having a look at one of the onboard replays. Let's see if we can pick this one up. Here it is. Here's the onboard from the helicopter cam, or not helicopter cam, the roof-mounted antenna cam. Had a little bit of a run, but then just decided he would have a bit of a lunge. Oh, and that's a little bit of a hard lunge there. But did pretty well to pull it up. Stopped the car from going around, which was the important thing. But that gap was always diminishing, always not going to be there by the time he got to it, and managed to do pretty well to avoid turning another car around there.
Sometimes you are able to dive bomb into cold corner if the car ahead knows you're coming, but that's a case of rather letting someone through than making the pass. Because I mean, it can happen, and we have seen it happen in real life before. But you know, it's one of those.
Yeah, that's one of those issues where if you want to get that type of a move done, you've got to be able to execute the block pass really well. And it's a fine art form, and a circuit like or like Barbagallo with Cold Corner, you're trying to execute a block pass going into turn 6, you're just going to slide, basically going through the corner. You've got to time it to absolute perfection, and a lot of the time you just see cars just end up trying that move, understeering off to the other side of the circuit, and then the switchback, the over and under, just comes straight into effect.
You basically have to fire it in at the last moment. You need to stay behind someone, and the second they get on the anchors, you just dart right and go straight in.
Well, there's not very many laps to go here. We go back to the head of the field, and Devonish has somehow made his way up into 4th place, so he's now gotten past Mitch Hathaway. Pete Savage has now ceded position to Kurt Stenberg, so Savage must have made a little mistake somewhere, or he's been held up by traffic. That's allowed the TTR Commodore through into 2nd place. Now, Foley's not too far ahead of Kurt Stenberg here as well. Another penalty for Lime Mitch. That'll be another corner cut infringement. What we might do here in a minute, Hans, is we'll grab Foley for an onboard lap of Barbagallo, similar to what we did with Kurt Stenberg earlier in the night. It's because we're going to have 3 more laps remaining, and you can have the reins in this particular occasion, and you can talk us through a lap from the onboard camera.
Here we go, on board with Brenton Foley, 4th gear up into 5th, and then on a good run in there, you're on the rev limiter down to 3rd gear. Foley uses a little bit of curve to get the car in, rotated. Now up through turns 2 and 3. Only one line through here. Turn 4 now, long sweeping corner. 3rd gear. And then short shift to 4th, don't use all the rev. Now up to...
We've lost Hunter's mic for a second, but we got him back. Yeah, there we go. We're up to Cold Corner now.
Oh, now we're up to Cold Corner apparently. So we're up to Cold Corner, 3rd gear corner, up in now the run down the hill, and the hill actually it starts to incline a little bit at the end. You're hooking in from 6th gear down into 3rd, hook into the brake pedal. In real life, you'll be producing about 1600 psi brake pressure, and that is a lap of Barbagallo Raceway, Wanneroo.
All right, 2 more laps to go for race leader Foley, but he's got to be very careful now because the lead is now down to 2.1 seconds. Any slight mistake, and it's going to mean a real hard race to the finish. Savage has not given up hope of hunting down Stenberg either for this 2nd place. So he's really pushing the limits, going for that sort of double apex corner that he was talking about on his hot lap. And again, maybe just that, it looks, whenever he slides through that particular part of the course as well, it doesn't look like the car should be behaving that way, but I think that's just him driving it hard, just realising that he really hasn't got much opportunity left to try and put any pressure on the race leader, as the car had a little bit of a twitch as it tried to climb the hill out of Cold Corner. But just the 1 more lap to go now. Margin, 2.1 seconds, same as what it was the last time around. Can Foley close this one out? He didn't manage to close it out in the 2nd race of Pukekohe. 7 corners to go. Market 1 off them now. 6 more to go. Plenty of clear track ahead. Rhodey's the only man ahead of him, and again, satellite team for PBF. He'll just be making him aware that saying if you make a mistake, just stay off the circuit, get out of the way of the race leaders as they all come through. But Foley's been in control of this one pretty much since all the carnage unfolded ahead of him on lap 1. He's had the reins since, and Rhodey does the right thing, just gets out of the way. Didn't need to go onto the grass, could have stayed on the circuit. We try and encourage that they stay on the circuit rather than go across the grass, because then when you try and rejoin, you end up with spinning up the rear tyres and then firing back onto the circuit at a weird angle. But we're going to get a 2nd winner for tonight and a 3rd winner on the season, which is great to see. Bit of variety coming on, but it's all been the Holden show in terms of the wins. So Brenton Foley puts PBF Holden Racing Team on the board in season 2020 with the win tally. And good to see the number 1's back on the top step of the podium, and the podium positions made up by Kurt Stenberg and Pete Savage, bringing it home for Loose Sim Sport.
Good recovery there by Stenberg, far from and Peter up there as well. He's showing a bit of form, but great to see Foley. He's finally got a race win, much later in the season than he would have liked, but he'll take it anyway. He comes 4th place for Will Devonish, so pretty solid recovery, but we anticipate there will be a post-race penalty applied. 5th place for Mitch Hathaway. He was looking like a guru earlier on, and unfortunately a mistake sort of undid it all, but he was, again, strategy was perfect, but unfortunately a mistake put paid to his efforts. So 5th, not a true indication of his pace. Then in 6th place we've got Brandon Ross, so good to see Rossi's up there. He's moved forward 3 positions from his start and he's doing doughies again. Synchronised doughies, there's 4 cars there. Scott Nolan moving 1 position up from his starting spot of 8th. He's in 7th place, solid top 10 finish. Then rounding out the top 10, Steve Burko, good performance, up 13 spots from basically starting at the rear of the grid. Liam Spencer, he made a good pass on Lime Mitch, but it was all for naught anyway because Lime Mitch had to come into the pit lane for a drive-through penalty. Lime Mitch in last car on the lead lap, then the rest of the cars are 1 or 2 laps down.
Yeah, so half the field getting lapped on that particular occasion. Only 2 non-finishers in that particular race as well. Scott Stancliffe and Dwayne Davies were the 2 men that didn't finish. Our man, it was a hard charger in race 1, Luke Rosella, finishing in P12 after that bit of a weird glitch. Again, one of the drivers that was right up there, really challenging, could have really changed the complexion of this finishing top 10 had those issues not have occurred. But, well, I guess you've just got to take the good with the bad sometimes, and that'll be something he probably looks at after the race and tries to figure out what exactly happened and prevent it from happening again, which we all try and do. We've had our fair share of dramas here, the Outworld Broadcasting booth tonight, with the stream having a little bit of a drop at the beginning of the night, having to put up a new link as well. So we're not immune to this ourselves. There's all sorts of weird and wonderful things that do tend to happen. But we're just waiting to see if we can get our race winners up into the chat at the moment. They're off obviously doing a few celebratory donuts. I'm looking through the order to see if I can find everybody that I want to grab. And we're just waiting on them all to come up now. So I see Kurt Stenberg's made his way across from the ASC Discord. He's up here with us at the moment. And just waiting on the rest of our podium sitters. But well, while we've got him here, Hans, let's talk to him about his night.
So we've got our, well, not our race winner, but the first of our podium finishers to make their way into the broadcast booth, Kurt Stenberg. What a recovery.
Thanks, guys. Tried my best, but couldn't quite get there for P1.
Now, we've seen you manage to recover from these sorts of situations before. Did you think you could get to P1 if there were perhaps one more lap?
Not with one more lap. Nah, I wasn't going to get there. I sort of realised with about 5 laps to go I wasn't going to get there, but you've got to keep trying in case Brenton makes a mistake and you can capitalise. But yeah, he had that one pretty safely in the end.
We just had someone just... Here we go. Well...
I know precisely what happened there. It was, I think Lewis is just shifting a few people into the broadcast booth because there's security clearance on here, and Peter was cut off mid-sentence. But I'll let you finish with Kurt Stenberg.
Yeah, that was a bit humorous. So, Kurt, I'll get back to you now. And now you've got the free roam. You can speak if you want. But yeah, fantastic drive considering far from ideal circumstances.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Try my best to come back through the field, and yeah.
Good solid haul of points for Kurt Stenberg there. He holds down the lead in the championship, and we'll move on to 3rd place now. Oh, we'll move on to 1st place actually because he's just unmuted himself. Brenton Foley, congratulations on your first win of the season. Probably a bit later in the season than you would have liked.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's about time, but got a little bit lucky with that one. Just had to, after the incident in the first lap, I had to really get my head down and stay consistent, and really take care of the tires. I had a bit, my wrist is actually really sore because I had right hand down from the contact with Kurt because I actually bumped him in all that, and then I don't even know what happened halfway through the race. A Volvo appeared inside my car, and it gave me more right hand down. So it was really difficult, but overall really happy that I finally got the win.
Volvo Blue by any chance?
It was, yes.
Yeah, we've seen a few issues. We'll see on the live stream that there are a few issues with Luke Rosella, and unfortunately ruined his run that night. But bit of right hand down for Brenton Foley. But It's good that you managed to get the win despite all those technical issues.
Yeah, I would have been pretty pretty annoyed if it was something like that cost it for me. But overall, I'm just really happy that I finally got myself on that top step.
Again, congratulations on a hard-earned win.
Thanks very much.
Now over to our third place getter, Peter. He managed to hold off Kurt Stenberg for quite a while, but he didn't have the pace to fight with him at the end. And again, on the podium in a different category, but this time Supercars. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't think I would have got a podium this early in the season, or if at all, but very fortunate that there was an incident on the first lap, and I'm honestly just really happy to be on the podium.
And it's interesting to note that Kurt Stenberg and Pete Savage, they're both Perth boys. So 2 out of the 3, 66% of the podium is from Perth. So good showing for the WA boys there. But I guess more positive signs of your development as a driver and your speed in the cars.
Yeah, well, like a few people know, I was actually pretty new to it when I joined the series. So over time, I've just slowly been adjusting to the cars, and I feel like I'm finally starting to get comfortable in them.
That's great to see. So more depth in the field, Steve. It's going to be a cracking season from this point forward, and we're going to see good things in the future as well.
I think so. I think the racing tonight, for most part, has been pretty top draw. There was definitely a lot of respect given between a number of drivers. Some fantastic side-by-side action all the way through the night as well. Some fantastic gamesmanship, trying to outfox your opponent into some of the corners. Definitely makes for a good second 2/3 of the season. Well, as we said at the top of the show, after tonight's racing action was over, we're approximately 1/3 of the way through this championship. The next time that we see you, it'll be on June 11. As you look at the Supercars calendar there it is, the Calder Twin Sprint. So Calder Park Raceway is the venue. We ran that for the first time last year. Didn't have that many cars, but it was a pretty smashing success by all accounts, and everybody that ran that circuit on the night was pretty happy with how it went. So in a couple of weeks' time, that is when we will see you. In between then and now, the next broadcast here on the Outworld Broadcasting Channel is the next round of GT3, which takes place on the 2nd of June, and that's going to be the 60-minute event at Shanghai International Circuit. So there's the remaining calendar for GT3 on the screen there, so please tune in and watch along with the rest of the AMS Oz community that doesn't want to participate on the 2nd of June. But if you're a Supercars fan, we'll see you on June 11. Thanks again, and please drive safely. See you next time. Bye for now.